Go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Her Majesty the Queen becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
Good morning to you. It is 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of June, and this is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Isabel, live from Buckingham Palace.
Coming up this morning, millions of people around the country and indeed around the world today will celebrate the Queen's 70 years of service as she becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
A new portrait of Her Majesty has been released, and in a special message, the Queen said the day was an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years.
The historic occasion will be marked by Trooping the Colour, the Sovereign's personal inspection of British and Commonwealth troops, and it will culminate in an appearance on the Buckingham Palace balcony just behind us of the Queen and her family.
Now, today's festivities kicking off a bank holiday weekend of celebrations with about 200,000 local events and street parties taking place right across the country.
And a pair of 11-year-old twins who raised £50,000 for NHS charities, as well as the actor Damian Lewis and the illustrator Quentin Blake, have all been named in the Queen's Jubilee Birthday Honours List.
Well, how are you celebrating what is a real moment of history? It is a remarkable day. We'd love to know what you're planning to do today and all over this long bank holiday weekend. Drop us an email, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet us at GB News.
And a little reminder, don't forget you can subscribe to the GB News channel on YouTube to get all the latest on the big story, and quite frankly, the only story anyone is talking about today.
Well, welcome to Buckingham Palace on what is a glorious June morning. The sun is shining. It's lovely and quiet here, isn't it?
We've had it all to ourselves since early this morning, and it's been a real privilege.
It has been a privilege. It's lovely to be here today, especially because it is a day of history as the Queen becomes the first British monarch to celebrate 70 years on the throne.
And as you can see, we brought the studio here to Buckingham Palace. We'll be here throughout the day and giving you full coverage for the next 4 days, making sure you have everything you need to know about the landmark Platinum Jubilee. Well, first, here's our royal reporter Cameron Walker as he looks back at the Queen's historic reign.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
Her Majesty the Queen, speaking in 2015 when she overtook her great-great-grandmother Queen Victoria as Britain's longest reigning monarch. This year, we celebrate her Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. Trooping the Colour is a large part of June's celebrations and has marked the official birthday of the British sovereign for more than 2 centuries. 96 years ago, the then Princess Elizabeth was born, not in a palace, but in a townhouse. She wasn't expected to be queen, but her uncle, King Edward VIII's sudden abdication to marry an American divorcee propelled Elizabeth up the line of succession.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service
Even on her birthday, Her Majesty continues with duties and works through her daily red box of government papers. 14 British Prime Ministers have served her, as well as 15 Australian and 12 Canadians. She has advised and guided each of them through troubled times, while always knowing when to lighten the mood.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
Last night, a specially commissioned Platinum Jubilee portrait was released to mark the beginning of the celebrations. The Queen hopes that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. Cameron Walker, GB News.
And so you could see it just on the end of Cameron's report there. Brand new picture released by the palace, a portrait of the Queen to celebrate 70 years on the throne, taken in a window seat at Windsor Castle by Ranald McKenney. He also shot the Queen's portrait for her 90th birthday, as well as one to mark the start of a new decade in 2020. And as you can see, sitting in the Victoria vestibule at Windsor Castle. Stunning view behind her as well. And it was taken on May the 25th of this year. She also released a statement, we should say, overnight, saying thank you to everyone who's been involved in convening communities, families, neighbours and friends to mark my Platinum Jubilee in the United Kingdom and across the Commonwealth.
Yes, she said, I would continue to be inspired by the goodwill shown to me and hope that in the coming days it will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. A very positive message
Indeed.
from Her Majesty. Well, let's talk to royal broadcaster and commentator Rafe Hadel-Manku, who joins us here. He's going to be with us all morning. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning. Oh, what a glorious morning.
Isn't it a beautiful day? God is smiling on the Queen today as we mark this historic occasion.
Well, and smiling on us to be with this wonderful backdrop too. So yes, let's hope that the weather stays like this all weekend.
So for those people who are tuning in from home and wondering what's happening here specifically this morning, just talk us through how today, the 2nd of June, Trooping the Colour is actually a traditional celebration for the official birthday of Her Majesty, but today falling on a special occasion as well.
That's right. This is the grand opening for the Jubilee weekend, and we'll have some of the most iconic scenes which we'll be looking back at for years. Traditionally, Trooping the Colour is when you mark the Queen's official birthday. Normally it's the 2nd Saturday in June. Trooping the Colour goes back many centuries. It was actually King George II who started the tradition of celebrating his birthday with the Trooping of the Colour, which was an ancient way, essentially, of informing troops of what their own personal regiments and banner looked like, because on the battlefield they could get disorientated, and so knowing where your colours were, your flag were, became a rallying point. So it was an early form of communication, but is now intrinsically tied in with celebrations for the Queen's birthday. But yes, today is very special because it's the 2nd of June. It was on this very day that on the balcony behind us, the freshly crowned Queen stepped for the first time to the adoring cheers of the crowd. And so it'll be quite a moment to see the Queen again, 70 years to the very day, stepping out once more onto that balcony. She'll be joined by all of the working royals, but in fact the larger royal family, including Harry and Meghan, will be present for the Trooping the Colour at Horse Guards Parade. They'll be in the Duke of Wellington's old office, which overlooks Horse Guards Parade. So all of those royals who normally you would have seen on this balcony will be on a balcony. It'll just be down the road a little bit. And then after that there'll be a glorious fly past at around 1 o'clock over Buckingham Palace. It'll be about 6 minutes. It'll include all of the RAF's latest planes, as well as the Battle of Britain memorial flight. So you'll see the famous Lancaster bombers, Spitfires, Hurricanes, and then of course the thing everyone wants to see, the Red Arrows with the red, white and blue smoke. And if you're not in London, don't worry, because it's going to be flying over parts of the south of England as well. But if you do have children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews, and you're lucky enough to be within reach of London, I would really suggest coming down today, because those grandchildren will be able to tell their grandchildren about the day that they saw Queen Elizabeth. Like when I was a child, someone told me that they had once seen Queen Victoria, and this is one of those iconic moments, I think, for everybody. And then this evening, behind us, there's a glorious tree erected by the same sculptor who put the 2012 Olympic cauldron together, and there'll be the official lighting of the beacons, and there'll be 3,000 beacons around the country will be lit once this beacon is lit this evening around 9:45.
Now, in terms of the other senior royals, I mean, Trooping the Colour, we're not going to see the Queen out, are we? We don't expect today. But other senior royals really taking their place in this historic occasion.
Though the Queen has attended every single Trooping the Colour, except for 1955 when there was a train strike. But this year she will be here at Buckingham Palace. So in a break with tradition, the troops will still come to see the Queen, but rather than having her take the salute at Horse Guards, they'll come past her at the palace where she will acknowledge the salute. But yes, Prince Charles has stepped up. He's the Colonel of the Welsh Guards. The Irish Guards are the ones who are trooping their colour today, and Prince William is their Colonel. Princess Anne, Colonel of the Blues and Royals. So the three of them will be performing the functions normally done by the Queen, who will be back here with the Duke of Kent, Colonel of the Scots Guards.
People who might have been to Trooping the Colour in the past might have seen Her Majesty on horseback riding down the Mall. Today, as you say, she won't be doing that for the first time in her reign, letting Prince Charles, I think, lead that. But he will be on horseback along with his son and his sister, the Princess Royal, going down the Mall, followed by the carriages, I believe, into the horse.
That's right. So 10 a.m. The procession will start. Around 10:30, we'll see the royal party proceed down on horseback, those who are colonels. Others in the royal family will be coming on barouches, which are a fourth form of carriage in the procession, and you'll see the great crowds lining up on both sides of the Mall to see the royal family. Yes, as you say, the Queen, since until 1987, rode on horseback, and since 87, she's been in the carriage. Is that the last
time she did it? 87. I remember those images really vividly.
Yeah,
and remember in 81 when someone fired a starting pistol,
yes,
and she retained her composure on the horseback, which was quite impressive for a lady of her advanced years at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Look, we have talked a lot over recent weeks about how much of the Queen we are going to see, but we know, don't we, that she is going to want to acknowledge the good feeling and the goodwill that is being sent to her today. I mean, she's reflected on that in her statement, but that balcony appearance is going to be quite something else.
It's going to be quite remarkable, but the Queen has also stressed the importance of communities coming together. This is not just about celebrating the Queen, it's about celebrating our nation's history, our island story, and our community spirit, and that's why she said in her statement that's just been released how grateful she is for the communities that are coming together, and you're going to see that over the weekend with all of these street parties, bringing people together, particularly after COVID and lockdown when people felt so isolated. This will be a great opportunity to bring the nation together.
Interesting, the closing comments in that message that she published, saying, as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm, and you talked about who we can expect to see on that balcony, the working royals today, a streamlined royal family, which we know Prince Charles wants to keep as he ascends to the throne. So she must be feeling very happy and pleased with the way the family's looking when she looks to Prince William, she looks to Prince George, and I suppose whilst today is a celebration, those comments suggest that it's also a moment to start thinking about the future as well.
That's right, and we're very fortunate to have both in the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge two people who have really taken up the cause of the Queen and seem to be fulfilling very much those roles that we require of duty, self-sacrifice and dedication to the community and to the nation as a whole. So I think we're very lucky and very, very proud here. And of course, it's not just them, there are other royals who are also going to be on the balcony, the Dukes of Kent and Gloucester and others, who've also given tireless dedication to support the Queen and who perhaps might have been looking forward to a bit more of a relaxed life now, but have stepped up to the fray to help her in this time.
It's interesting, isn't it, when we reflect on how historic today actually is. It is very, very unlikely that anyone alive on this planet today will ever see this again.
Well, next week, actually, the Queen becomes the second longest reigning monarch in world history. She's 2 years shy of King Louis XIV's record of 72 years. So this really is a world-beating record we're about to see happen now with the Queen today.
Quite remarkable that she herself attended a Silver Jubilee celebration when she was just 9 years old, then her father's coronation when she was 11 years old, and then 15 years later her own coronation, and now here we are 70 years after that at her Platinum Jubilee. To have seen all of that, two coronations, two jubilees of three different monarchs is extraordinary in itself.
And those are real milestones in our nation's history. Unlike France or America or most countries in the world that celebrate revolutions and wars of independence, we haven't got that. We're the world's longest continuous democracy, so it's only royal weddings and coronations and jubilees that provide a moment where we can actually have a proper patriotic celebration of our nation. And the Queen has been there for the past 100 years, essentially, of the celebrations, going back to the first Silver Jubilee.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Lovely. Rafe, for now, thank you. We're catching up with you, of course, throughout the course of the day. But let's just tell you what's coming up as part of the celebrations. Now, From 10 o'clock this morning right through to 1 o'clock, it's the Queen's birthday parade travelling through the city.
Between 12:30 and 1, we're expecting a fly past and a royal family balcony appearance at Buckingham Palace.
And then at 9:45, we're going to be looking as those beacons are being lit throughout the United Kingdom.
Well, on Friday the 3rd of June at 11:30, a service of thanksgiving for the Queen's reign will then be held at St Paul's Cathedral, and bell ringers across the UK and Commonwealth countries will take part in activities of bell ringing across the Jubilee weekend to coincide with the service of thanksgiving taking place in London at 11:30.
On Saturday the 4th, the Queen and members of the royal family will attend the Derby at Epsom, and on Sunday the 5th from 2:30 till 5, the Platinum Jubilee pageant will be taking place.
Well, Stephen and I will be right back with you, and hopefully this bumblebee will have moved on. But for now, let's hand over to Rosie, who's back in the GB News studio this morning with the rest of today's news headlines. Well, a very good morning to you. It's 6:15. Let's bring you up to date.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
The actor Johnny Depp says he feels at peace after winning his defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. The jury unanimously found she acted with malice in a 2018 article in which she claimed she was a victim of sexual violence. Johnny Depp was awarded £12 million in damages. Well, Amber Heard was separately awarded £1.6 million after jurors found Mr. Depp's lawyer defamed her when he called her abuse claims a hoax. In the US, 5 people are dead after a shooting at a hospital in Tulsa. A gunman armed with a rifle and a handgun killed 4 people in Oklahoma before he was fatally shot himself. 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered at a primary school last week. Back in the UK, emergency doctors are warning there is no give in the system as they expect extra pressure over the bank holiday weekend. The Society for Acute Medicine says longer ambulance waits and long stays in emergency departments are expected over the 4-day break. NHS bosses are advising people to use services wisely and to call 111 for non-urgent medical needs. The average price of petrol rose by 11 pence in May. That's the second largest monthly increase ever seen. RAC Fuel Watch found that a litre of unleaded rose to 174.2 pence by the end of last month. This increase comes despite the 5% litre duty cut, which the Chancellor introduced in May. Scotland have lost 3-1 to Ukraine in their World Cup playoff semi-final. In their first game since Russia invaded, Ukraine have kept alive their dream of reaching the World Cup. They'll next face Wales on Sunday in the playoff final in Cardiff. The winner will go on to play in the finals in Qatar in November.
Lovely stuff, Rosie. Thank you. Buckingham Palace on this glorious day. It couldn't have been planned any better, could it, Isabel, frankly?
It's been bathed in sunlight since the sun came up, and there's a real buzz, a real sense of excitement in the air here, and no doubt lots of, preparations being made inside Buckingham Palace behind us.
I bet it's alive with activity in there. Look, someone who knows all about this sort of thing, but perhaps maybe never thought we'd get to a Platinum Jubilee, I don't know, it's former Royal correspondent Michael Cole who joins us. It's lovely to see you.
Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. We're here. It can start, can't it?
It can start.
Let's get on with it.
Absolutely.
There's no force on earth that will keep the British people away from a fantastic party, and that's what we've got arranged over the next four years. 4 days. 4 days, it feels like 4
years. It might do by the end of it.
70 years, that's the reward you get if you happen to reign for 70 years. It is phenomenal.
You've been covering the Royals. You were covering for...
Not 70 years ago.
No. But for a long time, did you ever think we'd reach this sort of milestone?
Never. And of course, the Queen said recently, she said, I never thought we'd get here. It is remarkable because... Jubilees, mentioned in the Old Testament as a sort of great festival, a great enjoyment for everybody. Don't happen very often. Before the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977, the last one before that was King George V in 1935, and that was the one in 77 was actually groundbreaking in many, many ways. Tomorrow, of course, we know there's going to be the Thanksgiving service at St Paul's. On that day at St Paul's in 77, the Queen did something she'd never done in Britain before. She'd done it in Australia and in New Zealand, but there was a royal walkabout in the courtyard of St Paul's Cathedral. And that set a precedent. Now everybody takes it for granted. These are great events, but of course, if you're as old as me, you do remember a bit. And I can vividly remember Coronation Day in 1953. This day, June the 2nd. This was Coronation Day. Of course, it poured with rain all day long. I was 10 years old, living about 8 miles in that direction. And in our semi-detached house, my parents had spent an awful lot of money. I think it was like £60 on a 12-inch black and white 425 line television. Ooh. And the only people in the street of 12 houses, and we had 17 people sitting in a fairly small back room all day long looking at this one small screen. And we were so enthused by coronation spirit that the next day I came here with my mother and my sister, who was a little bit older, by Duke of York steps to see the trooping of the colour. We weren't at the coronation, and of course I saw absolutely nothing. My mother bought us each a cardboard and mirror periscope, through which I think I just saw the top of the Queen's hat. But it was wonderful, and of course over the years as a BBC television correspondent I covered troopings of the colour. And I was always on standby because after the incident where some stupid idiot fired a cap gun at the Queen's horse, and the horse, Burmese, lunged forward, there was always a reporter on standby. You'd understand this, so that when Tom Fleming was doing his great bits about the ceremonial, but if there was a real news story, the news reporter was supposed to carry on and take over the coverage. Fortunately, it never happened. And I was around when Burmese, which was a beautiful horse the Queen rode for many, many years, presented to her by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who of course will be in the show tomorrow, from their stables, their headquarters in Manitoba. Burmese was retired, and he was being kept at the police barracks just up the road here, the police stables. And we went up, it was just before Christmas, and we decorated him with Christmas decorations and tinsel, and it looked fantastic. And that was the end story in the news that day. So these are great festivities. I didn't cover the Diamond Jubilee. By all accounts, that wasn't such a great success from the television point of view, but I think the great corporation will have learned its lesson, and perhaps we'll get some better coverage this time.
Well, I think that, as you say, and you said at the very beginning there, the weather has set the tone, I suppose,
Absolutely.
for this Platinum Jubilee. But, you know, as we reflect on those 70 years since her coronation, it's amazing to think that we've got here, but also I suppose her recent health reminds us of her fragility, the age of 96. Today, her official birthday, the day the nation celebrates her turning of age. And of course, the loss of the Duke of Edinburgh last year, a reminder that people don't go on forever, and a real sense today, I think, of people wanting to grasp hold of what so many people see as the nation's grandmother.
Well, I think you've said it. You've said a mouthful there, and it's all absolutely...
She does that, Michael. She does that.
But it's all absolutely true, and I think the Queen has taken that on board. She's very logical about these things. She takes things as they come. She's lost her mother, she's lost her sister, both terribly dear to her. Of course, at a fairly young age, 25, she lost her father. And she rationalises these things and gets on with it. But, you know, there are some good portents, because her mother lived to 101, that's 5 years' time. And as we've all seen, she hasn't lost her marbles. She's on the ball, she's sharp. And she may have mobility problems, which I'm sure are difficult for her because she likes to be in the thick of things. But you know something, let me just tell you, because we're in the television business and the viewers will excuse us if we talk a little bit of shop here, but you know something, the coronation validated television as a medium in this country. Before that it was a niche interest, a few people had TV sets. People went out and bought television sets, like my parents and many, many, many others. And in that coverage, the great Richard Dimbleby reinvented the monarchy for the television age. He did. The Duke of Edinburgh insisted that there should be television cameras. Before that, the coronation of 1937 of the Queen's father, nothing inside the Abbey. But Edinburgh said, we'll have cameras. And Dimbleby was perched way up in the roof in a little place. They just, as an afterthought, they put him in. They didn't have anything grand like we've got here, which is superb, by the way, I might tell you. And he was up there, and he said, using the historic present tense, the Queen is crowned. And, you know, it sent a shiver through people. And he did it. He did it alone, because there was only the BBC in 1953. And, you know, I have got very few heroes in broadcasting, apart from you two, of course. But I certainly admired him. And, you know, he died very, very early from cancer, 55, I think it was. And he was never knighted. He got the CBE. And when he was on his deathbed, the Queen sent half a dozen splits, half bottles of champagne to him. But he deserved so much more. And this is very much a television event. Witness this here. It's going around the world. Everybody will be watching it. And we at GB News will be giving as good as anybody else.
Absolutely, we will.
Thank
Michael, thank you very much indeed. Joy to see you this morning. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break, but coming up, we're going to be in Northern Ireland as royal beacons are lit all over the UK and the Commonwealth. First, though,
here's your forecast.
Good morning, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather update. The Jubilee weekend is upon us, and certainly for most of us, the start of it is looking pretty good. It's going to be a fine day out there, plenty of sunshine. Bit chilly first thing, but warming up by this afternoon. There is one exception. This little weather front is just drifting its way towards Northern Ireland. So here we are going to see increasing amounts of cloud, and we will also see some outbreaks of rain working in from the west. There is also the possibility of cloud bubbling up and providing one or two scattered showers over Scotland and northern England through the day today, but they'll be very well scattered. Most places won't see the showers, just stay dry and fine with sunny spells. It is pretty fresh out there if you're just about to step out, but by this afternoon it'll feel pretty warm. The winds are light, the sun is strong, and temperatures in the south getting over 20 Celsius. Cooler across the far northeast and a bit cooler with the cloud increasing for Northern Ireland. The rain may not get to Belfast till later on, but it will move in here. Quite a wet evening it looks like for Northern Ireland. And it doesn't stop there. The rain will move its way across the Irish Sea towards southwest Scotland, northwest England, North Wales overnight. Otherwise, though, most of us having a fine, dry evening and staying dry and clear overnight. Again, temperatures could drop down to single figures where we keep the clear skies. So a chilly start to Friday. Friday, tomorrow is not quite as straightforward as today. It does look as if it'll be cloudier for Wales, western parts of England, southwest Scotland with maybe one or two showers, and still for Northern Ireland too. Any showers across central and eastern parts, few and far between. So again, most places across eastern England and much of northern and central Scotland, dry and fine with some sunshine. And in the sunny spells, temperatures again getting into the low 20s, feeling pretty pleasant. Some of these North Sea coast a little fresher on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, well, still some sunshine certainly across the north, but in the south likely to turn cloudier with an increasing chance of some showers.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
on TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, a very warm welcome back to our sun-drenched studios here. You can see Buckingham Palace absolutely bathed in glorious sunlight this morning. It really feels as though it's setting the tone for a four-day celebration. The Queen, of course, celebrating her momentous Platinum Jubilee. Real sense of excitement here.
Yeah, there is, and it just feels like the tension is building now. It's getting ready to be 4 days of real celebration, and you can join us for all of that, whether you're on TV, listening to us on the radio, or on YouTube, or streaming us elsewhere online. Still to come on today's programme for you, he's a former royal chef who cooked for Her Majesty's household. He'll tell us about the chocolate ganache sponge cake that was always baked for her birthday, and why dark chocolate in particular was Her Majesty's treat of choice. That's coming up just before 7 o'clock.
Sounds good. Very good taste, very good taste. Also coming up in the next hour, what kind of security will be in place for a day like today, and how are the royal family members being protected? I suppose also in that we should include Harry and Meghan, who we know are on British soil. We'll be speaking to a former head of royal security. That's at around 7:45. He'll be able to share some of the inside secrets.
Don't forget, we want to hear from you this morning. Let us know how you're going to be celebrating this Jubilee. Drop us an email, gbviews@gbnews.com.
Now, beacons will be lit all around the UK this evening and across the Commonwealth to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Now, we sent our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, out and about to try and find out about one very special beacon in Enniskillen in County Fermanagh.
A ferry returns to Ballycastle from an island whose spider supposedly inspired a Scottish king in the 1300s. A royal beacon will be lit here to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee. It will be one of over 1,000 across the UK. Beacons and bunting are part of the British life, but where did it all begin? Fire has always been used as a long-distance communication device, and a beacon such as this one behind me was built to warn the locals that Napoleon was close at hand. Local historian Michael Copeland explains.
The original beacons were built by a warrant issued by the King, and the taxation was levied by the sheriff. During the Napoleonic Wars, Martello towers replaced many of the beacon sites. They were all based on an original design from Martella Point in Corsica, a flat top tower with a fire on top of it that was designed to alert the local population of the approach of African pirates in search of treasure and slaves. The Napoleonic Wars saw the construction of literally hundreds of Martello towers across the British Isles. There are 70 on the island of Ireland alone, which equates to 1 every 28 miles of coastline.
Mike Coolan is at the front of Ballycastle celebrations and tells us what we can expect later this evening.
Well, I think this is an event that will never be witnessed by any of us in our own lifetimes, indeed in the future. She has reigned for 70 years. Well, we'll start off with the Holy Trinity Choir, who will sing 2 hymns, followed by the Piper, who will place a medley of Irish tunes, and then the bugle call to the Jubilee beacon lighting, followed by a specially written piece of pipe music, Diu Regnar, by the Piper.
Beautiful Ballycastle will be lighting its beacon tonight at 9:45, along with the rest of the UK. Festivities here will be getting underway at around 8 o'clock.
Well, stay with us right here at Buckingham Palace. We'll be taking you through the papers in just a moment with Norman Baker. That's after this short break.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
we're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 6:36. Morning to you. This is Breakfast on GB News, live from Buckingham Palace today. That's a nice thing to say, isn't it? It is the first day of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations.
And it's that time in the show where we go through the newspapers. Today we're joined by the royal author and former Home Office Minister, Norman Baker. Lovely to see you, Norman.
Thank you.
What do you think of our studio?
I think it's fantastic. You've got the best view in the world, haven't we?
We have,
absolutely.
Witnessing history in the making, indeed, Norman. And look, all of the papers reflecting what, as we have been saying, is frankly a historic day.
Yes, all the papers have the Queen on the front, of course. No surprises there, apart from The Guardian and the Daily Star.
The Guardian doesn't?
The Guardian doesn't, the Daily Star doesn't, and the Financial Times doesn't. And I don't understand the Financial Times headline, actually. And even so, something very peculiar and financial in nature. However, most of the papers have got this new portrait of the Queen, which you've been referring to on the programme so far, which is a nice pose, I think. She featured on the front of the Daily Express. A grateful nation salutes you, ma'am, is sort of typical of the headlines. My favourite front page in royal terms is actually the Eye, which has, which I think your people have got on screen, which has got 70 pictures of the Queen in the silhouette of her head, as it would be on a coin.
It's like a stamp.
It's a stamp or a coin or something, but it's actually rather nicely done, I think. It sort of captures the reign.
Yeah, it's a profile we're familiar with, isn't it? And that montage, it's a great idea.
Oh, I like that. What's the Telegraph got for us today?
The Telegraph, what's the Telegraph got? The Telegraph has got the Queen's speech, actually, her comments, which are reported in some detail there. Not all the papers do that, by the way, but the Telegraph does do that, and the portrait, as always, which I referred to a moment ago. And of course, later on, the papers do cover other stories. There are other stories today.
But it's interesting that she makes a point of reflecting on the future, or looking forward to the future of this country, which of course is inevitably looking beyond her time. And she's the idea is, I guess, that she's wanting to leave us in a good position.
I think that's probably right. And clearly there's going to be a great deal of celebration in the next few days, and clearly there's a lot of goodwill towards the Queen from all quarters, I think. I don't think it necessarily means goodwill towards the royal family generally, but I mean, that's perhaps not the point to make today. Today is about the Queen and about her 70 years, which is an astonishing achievement, just in terms of length of service, apart from anything else. 70 years, as we've heard earlier on, she's behind Louis XIV, was it? I think 2 years.
Yes, 2 years behind.
That's it, and then she's caught him up, and that's it, which is astonishing. And the fact of the matter is, look, I'm nearly at my retirement age, but she was on the throne when I was born, and there are very few people really who will remember a period before she was around. I mean, you've got to be probably the same age as her, almost, to remember anything from George VI's time. So, for all of us in the country, we've only ever had the Queen, so there'll be a seismic change in many ways when she finally does go.
Well, let's not dwell too much on that just yet, but let's talk, shall we, about what will be, frankly, a family reunion as well, a family celebration, and Harry and Meghan on British soil together for the first time in 2 years, having flown in for the celebrations. Indeed, they will be just down the Mall a little bit later on, not doing the procession, part of Trooping the Colour, but they will be in Horse Guards Parade. And the Sun's covering that, saying, "Don't you just love her?" A clever play on the word letters ER. But what are they saying about Harry and Meghan's
Harry and
arrival?
Meghan jet in. They're referred to on the front page as flying in from the US, and actually you could expect the papers to do some mischief making, but they haven't actually. They played it straight down the line. That peace has broken out. I think show of unity, the Sun describes it as one big happy family. So nobody's in the mood for making any snidey comments, I think, today.
Good. Well, isn't that nice? Because whatever else people may think, this is the Queen and her grandchild and now great-grandson and great-granddaughter that she's never met Lilibet before, has she?
That's right. I mean, so it will be quite a family reunion in that sense, or not even a reunion, but an introduction in some respects. So, no, it's nice the papers are just playing it straight, actually, because, 70 years is an amazing achievement, and there are other occasions when wider points can be made, I think.
Yeah. Look, if we move on to one or two other things, a bit more political, because it's in the Times, I think, isn't it? And the Prime Minister, we know, is in a bit of bother. This isn't the whole Partygate thing isn't going away for him as we want, but his front bench colleagues are doing what they can to rally round him.
Well, they are, and as you say, there is other news in the world today, which has been obviously pushed right back within the pages of the papers, so it's not there, and what might have been on the front page is now on page 10 or 11 in some of the papers. But I mean, the fact is that the Prime Minister is in some difficulty, of his own making, in my view. We've got The Guardian referring, in fact, to the ethics code mistrust. The Times you mentioned, Stephen, has got the situation where people are coming out to defend him, Nadine Dorris, whereas other Tory MPs are, of course, gradually sending in letters of no confidence to Graham Brady.
Yeah, well, indeed, we had Dominic Raab on the programme, Deputy Prime Minister, this time yesterday, defending the Prime Minister, saying that a break of the law wasn't necessarily a breach of the ministerial code, and adamant that there would be no vote of no confidence next week. And we talk about how this story is being pushed out of the way by the Platinum Jubilee, but I suppose there are some theories, aren't there, out there, that perhaps the threshold has been reached for the 54 letters, but that vote of no confidence is being delayed. I mean, we can't be sure either way, but it is a possibility that next Tuesday we might well see, once the Commons returns.
That's right. Well, Graham Brady is the only person who knows that, who is the 1922 committee chair, who receives the letters of no confidence, which have come in, and it would clearly be, bad form, I think, for Great Britain to make an announcement in the middle of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. So if he has received the letters, we won't know until Tuesday. What I would say is that when Theresa May was subject to a vote of no confidence a couple of years ago, we only knew about 30 letters at that point, and suddenly there were 54. So it's quite normal, I think, for people to put in letters and not tell the public at large that they've done so. And therefore the fact that we know about 30 letters now already suggests that that threshold may have been reached. Certainly the Prime Minister is in some difficulty. And I think one last point to make is that the change to the ministerial code, which weakens the ministerial code, to effectively allow himself to be declared not guilty and to not have to resign. I mean, that is a tin ear.
The timing is unfortunate.
To be fair, the ministerial code is a difficult thing, isn't it? Because it is enforced by the Prime Minister.
Indeed it is.
And therefore the Prime Minister does not have to hold himself to that code.
Well, to be honest with you, the Prime Minister should not be holding himself to account. He should be held to account by Parliament or by his advisor, Lord Gate, who's now threatening to resign, of course. So, it was a bad move for the Prime Minister to do that at that particular point.
Yeah. OK. Look, Norman, we're going to leave it there for now. Don't go anywhere, though, because we're coming back to you in just a moment.
With this lovely view?
Well, I know,
and the sunshine, I'm staying here.
We're going to have to shoehorn you out that scene at some point. But just for the time being, let's head back to the GB News studios. And Rosie has got the rest of the headlines. Morning, Rosie.
It is 6:45. Let's bring you up to date with the other stories making the news today.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
Johnny Depp says he feels like he's got his life back after winning his defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife Amber Heard. The actor wasn't in court to hear the verdict. He was spotted at a pub in Newcastle last night. Well, the jury unanimously found that Amber Heard acted with malice in a 2018 article in which she claimed she was the victim of sexual violence. Johnny Depp was awarded £12 million in damages. In the US, 5 people are dead after a shooting at a hospital in Tulsa. A gunman armed with a rifle and a handgun killed 4 people in Oklahoma before he was fatally shot himself. It's after a series of mass shootings in the States. 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered at a primary school last week. In the UK, emergency doctors are warning there is no give in the system as they expect extra pressure over the bank holiday weekend. The Society for Acute Medicine says longer ambulance waits and long stays in emergency departments are expected over the 4-day break. NHS bosses are advising people to use services wisely and call 111 for non-urgent medical needs. The average price of petrol rose by 11 pence in May. That's the second largest monthly increase ever seen. RAC Fuel Watch found that a litre of unleaded rose to just over 174 pence by the end of last month. Well, this increase comes despite the 5 pence per litre duty cut, which the Chancellor introduced in May. Sheryl Sandberg, the chief operating officer of Facebook's parent company, Meta, is leaving the company after 14 years. She announced her departure on Facebook, saying the role had been the honour and privilege of a lifetime and that she'll now be focusing more on her foundation and philanthropic work. You're up to date, of course, we're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Rosie, thank you. Loads of you getting in touch this morning. Thank you very much. We always love to hear from you. It's the best part of the day, when we get your messages through. And lots of you celebrating. Tony in Hayley, morning Tony, says we're going to be at our beach hut today. Very nice too, with many other owners at Hayling Island with fish and chips. And then tomorrow, a group gathering at our holiday home for a few drinks.
Well, that
Quite
sounds
right
very
too.
British indeed. And
That's
Carol's
fabulous.
got in touch this morning, Stephen. She says, I feel so proud. And look at your set with all that lovely bunting. Kind of you to mention. She says, we are so blessed to have our amazing Queen. She'd given up so much, and I cannot imagine life in the UK without her. I have to say, Carol, lots of people will echo those sentiments over the next 4 days, I think.
When her time does come, It's going to be a shock to the system of this country, I can tell you that. David, morning David, says, I can remember watching the coronation on a 9-inch Echo television at the age of 11. As an ex-serviceman, may I wish Your Majesty a very happy birthday. Well said, David. Actually, my grandfather, Thomas Dixon, built a TV for the coronation.
Oh, wonderful.
He was a sparky, an electrician at the Shipyard Vickers in Barrow, and you could buy kit TVs then, because nobody had a TV, and we had it for donkey's years, a tiny little thing, and all the neighbours apparently on Romney Park in Dalton all came round, and hundreds of people in the front room, sort of thing, all watching the Queen.
Oh, fantastic. My mother was born in 1950, and she says her earliest memories were of watching the coronation on a neighbour's television when she was 3 years old, because of course it was over a year after her father had died. Her Majesty's father died before the coronation took place, but it was 69 years ago today that the coronation took place, although it is 70 years that she has been on the throne. Look, I just want to read one last email before we go back to Norman Baker with the papers. Wendy's got in touch. She said, we'll be celebrating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It's also my husband Paul's 65th birthday tomorrow. We'll be having a Jubilee birthday barbecue with family and friends. Well, lovely to hear that. Happy birthday to you, Paul. And whatever you are doing this morning, get in touch, or over at the weekend indeed. Let us know your plans and indeed your wishes for Her Majesty. Send them in gbnews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
Now let's go through some more papers with Royal Author and former Home Office Minister Norman Baker, who's flicking through the pages. What else has caught your attention, Norman, this morning?
I just have to tell your viewers the headline in the Financial Times: Diamond tells investors hurricane is bearing down on global economy. Nobody knows.
What does that mean?
Nobody knows.
Trouble at Mill.
Trouble at Mill. Jamie Dimon apparently is a person in the headline. I've no idea who he is, but I'm sure it's terribly important.
It probably is very important.
We'll set you the challenge of going and reading it and finding out and reporting back for our next paper review, so that you can dissect the front page of the
might lose your viewers.
Did you ever fancy a job in the Exchequer?
No, I don't think so. No.
Can I ask you? While we've got it, because obviously people, when you're in government and there's all these reshuffles and people get moved from department to department, you must end up in a department and think, I've no idea what goes on here.
I've always thought that.
There are plenty of ministers who are in departments who don't know what they're doing. That's certainly true, and it always was true. In my case, I actually asked for transport, and then I asked for the Home Office, so I got both of my wishes granted. My horror would have been going to the Department for Work and Pensions, which would have been a kind of death sentence, really.
Well, you can imagine the civil service sometimes, who are experts and have worked in those departments for decades, when a green new minister comes in, switching portfolios at a moment's notice and having a bit of a headache with them for a few weeks. But presumably that's what it's all designed to carry over and
well, indeed, they can lose all sorts of embarrassing information with a new minister and start with a blank piece of paper. That's what they do. Anyway, on your papers, I mean, I have to say the other story which is rightly there is the airport chaos. And, we're all staying at home celebrating the Platinum Jubilee, but there are plenty of people trying to fly out of the country and probably not succeeding, particularly if they're at Manchester Airport, which seems to be complete chaos. And you have to ask yourself, who is responsible for this? I mean, it doesn't reflect well on the country that we can't seem to run airports properly. Is it the government for not giving accreditation to people quickly enough? Is it the airports who've not employed the staff? People in the queue won't really mind whose fault it is, but they will mind the fact that they're there for hours in queues trying to get away. And for many people, they've been stuck at home because of COVID for a very long time. This is their first opportunity for some people to get out of the country, and hey, lo and behold, they're stuck at the airport.
I feel extremely lucky because I've just flown in and out of Manchester in the past 9 days, and it was fine. I mean, it was basically fine.
Maybe they arranged it especially for you.
I don't think so.
I think it's the school holidays that seems to be catching them out every time, whether it's at half term or it was Easter where there were big problems at Manchester as well. We took the programme up to Manchester a few weeks ago and they were having problems, I think it was in April, problems with the airport even then. And you do have to ask the question, well, hang on a minute, surely they could see this coming. Surely they could see the spike in demand with all those flights being booked. People being told and advised now to just take and travel with a backpack with their belongings. belongings that they can take into the cabin with them, because they just don't have the baggage handlers, and you can't expect to be reunited with your suitcase if you check it in. I mean, it's a long way to go till pre-pandemic travel for a lot of people.
It's very poor, and you have to say, here is a business which is incapable of serving its customers properly. You think about supermarkets. You imagine a supermarket saying, oh, we've only got one person for the till, all the other tills are shut, or we've run out of sugar and milk. I mean, you wouldn't get supermarkets behaving that way, but apparently airports can behave that way.
It's odd, isn't it? When you get opposition parties turning around and say, as they have done, I've heard it in the last couple of days, the government needs to do something. I mean, that all sounds a bit, but what?
Well, that's a danger issue, because the opposition parties will say that. The government will say, we must do something, this is something, therefore we'll do this. Not necessarily the right thing.
You don't think Grant Shapps could have done more on this particular occasion? I mean, asking the questions at the very least about what's being done to tackle the problem, perhaps in advance of this week?
Well, I mean, retrospective judgment is always easy, and Grant Shapps, I don't think, is predominantly to blame for this. I mean, Grant Shapps has actually given £8 billion to the aviation industry to keep them going, and I think the question he ought to be asking is, what have you done with this money I've given you?
Yeah.
Well, I think he is asking that question, isn't he?
Yeah. Let's finish off with a bit of Her Majesty, should we? And I know if you're on the radio, you're going to have to get online at some point and have a look at this beautiful picture. New photograph of the Queen taken on May the 25th, which is stunning. And isn't it, there's just something about the picture, I think, considering that we know she's 96 and has been a bit frail of late.
Yes.
Isn't it a stunning image? And just a sort of very regal image, really, of this great lady.
It's almost a gentle image, actually, rather than a sort of formal image. And I think that's good for this occasion, that it's the image of a real person. That's what I think comes across. Obviously, there's going to be a very professional photographer, and obviously the setting is being carefully considered. But nevertheless, it's a very nice photograph, and I think people will see it on half the front pages today, but not the FT.
Yeah, in the cropped versions, you got it in for the FT today. In the cropped versions of the picture, you can't quite see the full depth of that picture, but right in the distance you can see a beautiful backdrop of Windsor Castle.
Yes.
So an absolutely professional picture there in terms of composition.
Oh, a picture of which you can only dream of having as well.
Well, you
She'll be straight on the phone to Ranald after this, trying to book him in.
Are you available?
Well, nothing would surprise me. Norman, thank you. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on. Thank you.
Do stay with us. We're going to be here all day on GB News. Stephen and I will be with you until 9:30. The scene of, well, lots of preparations going on behind us inside Buckingham Palace. We're expecting members of the royal family to emerge from those gates, either on horseback or inside a carriage, to process down the Mall to Horse Guards Parade as part of Trooping the Colour, the Queen's official birthday.
It's going to be quite something today. You are not going to want to miss a thing, so stay with us. Back in a moment.
Good morning, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update. The Jubilee weekend is upon us, and certainly for most of us, the start of it is looking pretty good. It's going to be a fine day out there, plenty of sunshine. Bit chilly first thing, but warming up by this afternoon. There is one exception. This little weather front is just drifting its way towards Northern Ireland. So here we are going to see increasing amounts of cloud, and we will also see some outbreaks of rain working in from the west. There is also the possibility of cloud bubbling up and providing one or two scattered showers over Scotland and Northern England through the day today, but they'll be very well scattered. Most places won't see the showers, just stay dry and fine with sunny spells. It is pretty fresh out there if you're just about to step out, but by this afternoon it'll feel pretty warm. The winds are light, the sun is strong, and temperatures in the south getting over 20 Celsius. Cooler across the far northeast and a bit cooler with the cloud increasing for Northern Ireland. The rain may not get to Belfast till later on, but it will move in here. Quite a wet evening it looks like for Northern Ireland, and it doesn't stop there. The rain will move its way across the Irish Sea towards southwest Scotland, northwest England, North Wales overnight. Otherwise, though, most of us having a fine, dry evening and staying dry and clear overnight. Again, temperatures could drop down to single figures where we keep the clear skies, so a chilly start to Friday. Friday, tomorrow is not quite as straightforward as today. It does look as if it'll be cloudier for Wales, western parts of England, southwest Scotland with maybe one or two showers, and still for Northern Ireland too. Any showers across central and eastern parts, few and far between. So again, most places across eastern England and much of northern and central Scotland, dry and fine with some sunshine, and in the sunny spells, temperatures again getting into the low 20s, feeling pretty pleasant. Some of these North Sea coasts a little fresher on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, well, still some sunshine certainly across the north, but in the south likely to turn cloudier with an increasing chance of some showers.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
we're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Her Majesty the Queen becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
A very good morning to you. It is 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of June. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Isabel, and we are live from a sun-drenched, it has to be said, Buckingham Palace.
It is a beautiful day here today.
Indeed,
It's
yeah.
a perfect day for this. Coming up for you on the programme, millions of people around the country and around the world will today celebrate the Queen's 70 years of service as she becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
A new portrait of Her Majesty's been released, and in a special message, the Queen said the day was an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years.
Well, it is a historic occasion. It's going to be marked by Trooping the Colour, the Sovereign's personal inspection of British and Commonwealth troops, and it will culminate in an appearance on the Buckingham Palace balcony of Her Majesty and some members of her family.
Well, today's festivities will kick off a bank holiday weekend of celebrations with around 200,000 local events and street parties taking place across the country.
And a pair of 11-year-old twins who raised £50,000 for NHS charities, as well as the actor Damian Lewis and the illustrator Quentin Blake, have all been named in the Queen's Jubilee Birthday Honours list.
And remember, we love to hear from you, especially on this historic weekend of celebrations. Yeah, get in touch. Let us know not only what you think of our lovely studio, but what you think about the 7 years of Her Majesty's reign.
You see, I love the fact she calls it a studio. It's a tent.
It's a tent.
It's a tent on stilts, ladies and gentlemen. But,
and it is one with the best view in town.
But it's a tent with a very good view. So there you go. That's what it's all about.
It is. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. You're going to see everything you need to see right here on GB News. Send those thoughts in to gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet us at GB News.
And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, and that means you'll get all the very latest on everything we're talking about and the big stories of the day, which today, of course, all the key points of these Jubilee celebrations.
So today the Queen will become the first British monarch to celebrate 50 years on the throne.
70 even.
Oh, sorry, 70. I can't see with all this light. 70 years. 50. Don't know where that came from.
It's very early. It's only 7 o'clock in the morning. These things, believe you me, some of the stuff we say, I have no idea where it comes from. But no, 70 years, and it's nice. You don't get to, in this job, you don't get to turn around very often and turn our backs to you, but what a view.
Can't resist it, can you?
What a view.
Yeah.
And the balcony right there. We're going to see the Queen later on today. Absolutely superb view.
Yeah.
We've got the best view in the house for you today. And if you're listening on the radio, don't forget we will talk you through everything that's going to be happening today. So you won't miss a thing, whatever you're doing today. Look at that. Absolutely stunning.
Absolutely.
So we'll keep you fully up to date. But first, our royal reporter Cameron Walker looks back at the Queen's historic reign.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
Her Majesty the Queen, speaking in 2015 when she overtook her great-great-grandmother Queen Victoria as Britain's longest reigning monarch. This year, we celebrate her Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. Trooping the Colour is a large part of June's celebrations and has marked the official birthday of the British sovereign for more than 2 centuries. 96 years ago, the then Princess Elizabeth was born, not in a palace, but in a townhouse. She wasn't expected to be queen, but her uncle, King Edward VIII's sudden abdication to marry an American divorcee propelled Elizabeth up the line of succession.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
Even on her birthday, Her Majesty continues with duties and works through her daily red box of government papers. 14 British Prime Ministers have served her, as well as 15 Australian and 12 Canadians. She has advised and guided each of them through troubled times, while always knowing when to lighten the mood.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
Last night, a specially commissioned Platinum Jubilee portrait was released to mark the beginning of the celebrations. The Queen hopes that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Well, I want to take another closer look at that picture again that has, as Cameron was saying in his report, they've just been released by the palace to celebrate the monarch's 70 years on the throne. It was taken at the Victoria Vestibule at Windsor Castle by Ranald McCaughey, who's also shot the Queen's portrait for her 90th birthday, as well as one to mark the start of a new decade in 2020. So they've worked together many a time, and overnight Buckingham Palace also released a special message from Her Majesty, a Jubilee message, in which Her Majesty said she hopes that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that's been achieved during the last 70 years. She goes on to say, as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm.
Interesting that. Looking to the future with enthusiasm is actually it's a subtle but a strong message. Let's talk to royal broadcaster and commentator Rafe Heddle-Banku, who's here. Good to see you. Once again, Rafe. It is actually quite a strong message, that, isn't it, from Her Majesty?
It is, and I think we've seen over the last few months, we've seen every effort being made to establish that the Prince of Wales is the natural successor. He's been with his mother for a long time, accompanying her, but now very much at the forefront, as we'll see today, where he'll be taking, for the first time ever, the role traditionally performed by his mother, taking the salute at Trooping the Colour. aided, of course, by his son Prince William.
Well, Rafe, I just want to explain to anyone listening or watching at home, first of all, what some of that background noise is. And as I suppose you might expect, with Her Majesty about to process down the Mall, some last-minute cleaning operations are going on to make sure that it is all spick and span and fitting for the event. But just explain to us a little bit about what Trooping the Colour is. I mean, it's an annual event. It's there to mark the Sovereign's birthday, but I suppose with extra vigour today for the Platinum Jubilee.
Yes, so Trooping the Colour goes back to the time of King Charles II in the 17th century. Before radio communications, troops would often get lost on the battlefield, and it was a rallying point to see your flag, so you had to show the soldiers the flag. But ever since 1748 and King George II, it's been intrinsically tied to the Sovereign's birthday, celebrated in the nice summer months. The Queen, of course, not born in the summer. But this year added significance because, of course, it was on this day, 70 years ago, that the young Queen walked out for the first time onto the balcony behind you to her adoring crowd. And so it's quite an amazing occasion, and I think something's going on behind me.
I just want to reference that.
I don't know if it's... No, we can't get a shot of it, really, but it's some of the members of the armed forces.
What you should be able to hear is the clatter of hooves, essentially. I don't think it is actually members of the 1st Battalion of the Irish Guards, and it's their regiment that troop their colour today. There we go, we've got some pictures for you of that noise, bringing you pictures of the horses coming through, just literally in front of the palace, and all of it set up also for the big concert that's due to take place here on Saturday night. And we thought that we were fairly special having it to ourselves, but they must be enjoying that on a personal level, to be riding through what is normally such a busy thoroughfare at this time on a Thursday morning.
They're number twos they're in.
They're in their number twos.
Well, well done, GB News. I mean, these are the best seats in the house. I think I might want to bring my sleeping bag and camp out here for the full 4 days.
I don't know about them enjoying it though, but because I mean, anyone involved in Trooping the Colour, they rehearse again. They'll be exhausted by the time the real thing happens.
And we're talking about over 1,000 troops, 400 band members, 200 horses. It's a major operation. We saw Prince William performing the first rehearsal last week. Precision is the word for all of this sort of thing. And of course, the Queen hasn't missed one since 1955 when there was a rail strike. But for 70 years, she's been at 69 of those occasions. Today will be the first time she's not there, but she will be on the balcony today to see the troops march past her. So in a different way, she will be present.
I tell you what's interesting, what I've heard from my sources in the armed forces, is that she doesn't miss a trick. When it comes to things like Trooping the Colour, or even when she's walking up staircases and the household cavalry are on either side, but when it comes to precision, when it comes to uniform, she absolutely notices everything. And if you don't get it right, you will hear, a couple of days later that she wasn't impressed.
There's no one more experienced than the Queen at inspecting the troops after so many decades, and yes, she calls it steadiness. Yeah. She's always looking to see the steadiness of her troops.
And I suppose she always has set an example when it comes to that sort of thing, talking of steadiness of troops. And we were talking about what we can expect today from Trooping the Colour. We'll see Prince William on horseback alongside his father and the Princess Royal, his aunt, Princess Anne. But Her Majesty used to do that, didn't she? Used to ride down the Mall for Trooping the Colour, and indeed she had an incident when somebody fired at her. Tell us about what happened there.
That's right. So until 1987, the Queen always rode on horseback, side saddle, as ladies traditionally used to do in the old days. 1981, an unemployed youth fired a starting pistol several times, causing a lot of mayhem amongst other soldiers there. But the Queen, as you said, steadfastly maintained her composure, which was quite remarkable. Since 87, she's been in a carriage, but still attending every single year. But yes, very much a military person in every respect.
Yeah, now I can just tell you, those horses we saw were the household cavalry, indeed, on what they call watering order.
Oh, what does that mean?
Which is when they go out and exercise the horses prior to the event.
Oh, right, so they're limbering up, essentially, getting ready
so that was
for the big event.
Cavalry. How lovely. How lovely.
What a wonderful job.
Very, very nice it is to see. There you go. I've got my sources.
You've got your sources. I love how well connected you are. Look, there's some more.
Well, I'm married into the household cavalry.
You are now. Let's just say, it's the first time I've seen you since you got married.
Yes.
So many congratulations to you. An honest man of you. You have become, indeed. Rafe Hendelman, thank you so much. I know you're going to be staying with us throughout the course of the morning, and look, lovely to get your insights, and we'll see you again in a bit.
Lovely.
Now, let's just run you through what is happening through the celebrations over the coming days. So later this morning, the Queen's birthday parade will travel through the city.
Then between 12:30 and 1 we can expect a fly past and a royal family balcony shot at Buckingham Palace. That will be with Her Majesty and members of the working royal family.
Tomorrow there'll be a service of thanksgiving for the Queen's reign being held at St Paul's Cathedral, and bell ringers across the UK and the Commonwealth will take part in activities right across the Jubilee weekend.
Oh, there's something really special about hearing bell
Oh,
ringing.
love it.
Always sort of
I
signifies
love it.
something important and beautiful. Then on Saturday the 4th of June, the Queen and members of the royal family are expected to attend the Derby at Epsom.
And on Sunday, people right across the country, including us here at GB News, are taking part in the big Jubilee lunch, and in the afternoon, the Platinum Jubilee pageant will take place.
Well, thousands of people across the UK have flocked to the capital, to London, to be here where we are to celebrate. And among them is Alice Porter, our very own reporter, and she's on the Mall for us this morning. Alice, what's going on where you are?
Hello there, good morning. Well, I have to say it is an absolutely electric atmosphere here on the Mall, with people who've come from all over the country. Some people have come from abroad to come down to the Mall and get a glimpse of the royal family, particularly the Queen on her official birthday. Now, I've got one family, well, two families in fact, who've come all the way down from Lincolnshire. Hello there, good morning. Look at you, look at the absolute picture. Tell us about, you've come all the way down from Lincolnshire. What are you most looking forward to seeing?
We're super excited to see the Queen and all the parade this morning. It's the boys' first time in London, and we just wanted to be part of this once-in-a-lifetime day.
Oh my goodness, now look at these T-shirts. OK, so who's been learning about the Queen in school? All of you. Oh my goodness. OK, what have you been learning? What have you found out?
We found out that she's 96 years old and she's the longest reigning monarch ever to live.
Hey, that's not bad. Do you know what? We're going to employ you at GB News. We can have you as an extra royal commentator. And whose idea was the T-shirts?
We've got to have the memorabilia, right? fully equipped. Absolutely.
Now, I know you're particularly excited to see Prince William on horseback.
Very much so, can't wait. And then the rest of the royal family as well. We're not going to get many chances like this to see the Queen again, are we, guys?
And I know that for the two of you, it's your first time in London. So what are your first impressions of seeing London, obviously on such a special day?
All of the buildings are a lot grander than Messingham and where we live. It's just really cool to see it all.
A lot of grand buildings. Well, there you go. I mean, Buckingham Palace, definitely a very grand building. So we've got this wonderful family who are here waiting for, of course, for the parade, which starts at 10 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
So lots of very excited people here on the Mall.
Oh, fantastic, Alice. And I know you're going to try and track down my children a little bit later on. I don't know how easy that's going to be in amongst the throngs and crowds that are out today. But let me tell you, peak excitement in my household, and so many children up and down the country really excited about what's really a magical moment for children. I think it was when we had Robert Hardman, the royal biographer, come in on the programme and talk about how he wanted to take his grandchildren today, because it was just going to be one of those moments that you want to be able to reflect on and say to your grandchildren, you were there and you saw Her Majesty on her platinum.
Do you know, it's one of those things that they won't appreciate in a way till they're older.
Yes.
And then when they're older, they will say, oh, actually, I was there for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I remember that, even if they're not here in London, if they're celebrating back home, wherever you are in the country, just marking that. I mean, I remember the Silver Jubilee really well. I was only 3 or 4, I think. But I remember that because I was dressed up in a bath towel with the soap on the rope round my neck. That was my fancy dress costume, apparently. I blame my mother for that. But anyway.
Well, I pinched these flags off my children this morning. Luckily, there's a few left at home, so they'll be bringing theirs. But there's lots of kids adorned in all sorts today. And isn't it brilliant? Best of British. We'll be reflecting it all day, all morning, right here on GB News. But for now, we're going to head back to the GB News studio, where Rosie is standing by with the rest of the day's news headlines.
Well, a very good morning. It's 17 minutes past 7. Let's bring you up to date. In the US, 5 people are dead after a shooting at a hospital in Tulsa. A gunman armed with a rifle and a handgun killed 4 people in Oklahoma before he was fatally shot himself. This comes after, just last week, 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered at a primary school.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
Amber Heard says she's disappointed after losing her defamation lawsuit against her ex-husband and actor Johnny Depp. The jury unanimously found that she'd acted with malice in a 2018 article in which she claimed she was the victim of sexual violence. Well, Johnny Depp wasn't in court to hear the verdict. He was in a pub in Newcastle when it emerged he'd been awarded £12 million in damages. Amber Heard was separately awarded £1.6 million after jurors found Mr Depp's lawyer defamed her when he claimed her abuse claims were a hoax. Back in the UK now. Emergency doctors are warning there is no give in the system as they expect extra pressure over the bank holiday weekend. The Society for Acute Medicine says longer ambulance waits and long stays in emergency departments are expected over the 4-day break. NHS bosses are advising people to use services wisely and to call 111 for non-urgent medical needs. The average price of petrol rose by 11 pence in May. That's the second largest monthly increase ever seen. Well, RAC Fuel Watch found that a litre of unleaded rose to 174 pence, just over that, by the end of last month. This increase comes despite the 5 pence per litre duty cut, which the Chancellor introduced in May. Scotland have lost 3-1 to Ukraine in their World Cup playoff semi-final. In their first game since Russia invaded, Ukraine have kept alive now their dream of reaching the World Cup. They'll next face Wales on Sunday in the playoff final in Cardiff. The winner of that match will go on to play in the finals in Qatar in November. You're up to date. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Rosie, thank you. Now, as, of course, if you didn't know, the Queen is the first monarch in British history to celebrate her Platinum Jubilee.
Well, for more on the momentous occasion, former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole joins us in the studio this morning. I should say our open-air studio, or tent on stilts, as you like to call it, outside Buckingham Palace. Not a bad spot.
It's only just good enough for us. It's absolutely perfect. And we have a wonderful view of Buckingham Palace. And I notice at the moment the Royal Standard is not yet flying. It will fairly soon, and that will mean that the Queen's arrive from Windsor for the great celebrations. And you know, what a wonderful day we've got for it. June the 2nd, of course, was Coronation Day in 1953. It poured with rain all day long, and yet we've got this beautiful, beautiful morning. You know, unique is a word which is overused and misused and abused, but this is unique, as you were just saying. 70 glorious years. Queen Victoria only made 64, I think it was. Nobody alive today could have anticipated that this would happen. And even the Queen has said recently, you know, oh, amazing. You know, she was rather surprised herself to have found it.
What do you think she makes of it? I mean, it's very difficult to judge, but you know, the fact that, you know, she's reached a milestone, but that she's done so with the nation behind her, with this adoration, there's so much affection for her.
Well, she's had the training because she was, I think, 9 years old when her grandfather, George V, Grandpa England, as they called him, had his silver jubilee. And she appeared on the balcony with her sister, sort of peering over the top of the balcony on that day. And you know, nobody does the pomp and circumstance better than the British, as I think the whole world acknowledges. And it's part and parcel of it, you know. 50% of the job for the Queen, as her press secretary Michael Shea said to me, 50% of her job is being seen. And she's used to that. That's why, you know, when she's out and about, she always wears bright colours, not because she particularly likes them, but because she knows that she has to be seen. She's fantastically professional.
Yes.
And of course, we're very lucky that the centrepiece today is the Trooping of the Colour. You're going to have, I think, 1,500 marching troops, 250 horses. We've been hearing them going by already. It's going to be a great show, and everything you would expect, done in perfect style. The 1st Battalion of the Irish Guards are trooping their colour today, which is an ancient ceremony, more properly called the Sovereign's Birthday Parade. And not quite sure whether she's going to be there, but the betting is that she will be on the balcony with her cousin, the Duke of Kent, to welcome the troops when they march back after the ceremonial, and that the salute will be taken by Prince Charles, with Prince William riding a horse bizarrely called George, who will actually, well, yes, that's right, will actually, that's his son too, isn't it?
Yes.
Will actually go round and review the troops. You know, the idea of the trooping was that anciently, when a regiment was going into battle with all the mayhem, they had to see their colours, their standard, beforehand, so that they knew that that was the rallying point in the confusion of war, where to gather when there was a break in the fighting. So it's an important thing, and every soldier you'll see out there is one of our frontline troops, ready at a moment's notice to go somewhere in the world and fight. Indeed, the Welsh Guards are not represented because they, apart from their band will be here, because they are actually on active service at this moment. So it's going to be a fantastic day, and I'm looking forward to it, as I'm sure everybody is, because
yes, quite right.
As far as the British people are concerned, there is no force on earth that will stop them having a good party.
No, quite right.
Right.
Quite right.
And let me tell you, just making sure that party does go ahead beautifully. We've had the security dogs sniffing around in the last few moments. So we've had the, what did you call it, the watering of the horses, or the...
oh, Lord.
What is the expression?
Well,
we've had the watering horses, we've got the cleaning lorry outside as well.
Let me just check with the husband. It's called watering order.
Let me just cover your confusion by telling you something. You've noticed the mall is red.
Yes.
Yeah? Uniquely in London. Why? Because the tarmac was mixed with rubber. Why? So that when it's wet, the horse's hooves don't slip.
I love that kind of intel.
Nobody knows that, but wasn't that sensible? It's not going to be raining today, but if it were, that would give them the grip, so that they wouldn't be unhorsed.
Well, Michael, that's the kind of detail we've brought you in for on our breakfast programme this morning. Lovely to get your reflections on this historic day. Thanks for joining us.
Well, look, there are plenty of street parties and lots of pageantry, banners and bunting, millions of us, of course, across the country and indeed around the world will today celebrate the Queen's historic 70-year reign.
Yes, filmmakers in the northeast of England have been delving into the vaults to create a special tribute to Her Majesty. And our reporter Rachel Sweeney's been finding out more.
From Queen Elizabeth's post-coronation visit to Tyneside in 1953 to Her Majesty opening the Tyne and Wear metro system in 1981.
And I have great pleasure in declaring the Tyne and Wear metro system open.
Royal visits to the northeast have been proudly documented by local filmmakers. To mark the Platinum Jubilee, the North East Film Archive has pulled together amateur and professional footage from across the region to create a special film called Seen to be Believed.
This completed film was later shown in communities across the region so that everyone could experience the excitement of the visit.
Graham Relton is the archive manager. He says the film takes an affectionate look at the North's relationship with Her Majesty.
I love to see it's less about the Queen, it's more about the people and how they've celebrated and how they've come together. And, you know, interestingly, things haven't changed a great deal. It's still trestle tables, it's still bunting, it's still people getting dressed up in fancy dress and celebrating as a community. The Queen obviously is important, but I think it's a great excuse for people to come together.
One of the contributors is Chris Anderson, who filmed the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977.
Filmmaking has been my, not so much professional life, but amateur, if you see what I mean, but for 45 years, and I absolutely love it. And the fact that there's something come out of it like this, just the icing on the cake, or the icing on the Jubilee cake in this case.
And it's not just Video Archive the Northeast remembers, it's those royal front pages too.
Probably the first royal visit to our area in 1956 when...
Chris Lloyd covers royal visits for the Northern Echo.
People actually standing on top of lampposts and things, eager, craning to get a view of her. And that's really the situation really throughout our archives tell how for decades these rare visits have been real highlights of people's lives, really. It's amazing the way that she's able to touch people.
Including Peter Barron, MBE, who was the Northern Echo editor for 17 years. He was invited to a private function at Windsor Castle and regrets picking up that canapé.
I dropped the beetroot and puree canapé on this very plush pink carpet in the middle of Windsor Castle, and it just left this horrible purple and green smudge on the Queen's carpet. And she started to walk towards us, and I said to the editor of the Oxford Mail it was, "What am I going to do?" And he said, "Scoff it." So I had to pick it up and eat this pureed pea and beetroot canapé full of fluff, and within 30 seconds the Queen was there shaking hands.
He won't forget that. The region won't forget the scenes of celebrations. The nation will never forget the Platinum Jubilee. Rachel Sweeney, GB News.
Oh, there's lots to see here.
It really is.
I want to look in this direction all the time. There's just a band gone past. Which military
Well,
band it is, I
there's
don't
10
know.
military bands involved in Trooping the Colour today, and we just saw, I don't know what you call them, a herd of musicians with their musical chairs as well to sit on, all in red. It looked beautiful, beautiful spectacle. We're going to try and bring you, we just missed it because it's still on the VT, but whenever we spot things, we're going to try and bring them to you, because there is a real palpable sense of things going on, preparations getting made, and that little bit of intel from Michael Cole just then about the flag being a hint as to when Her Majesty is in the palace behind us. Just as soon as we spot that, we will let you know.
We want to know what you're getting up to, of course, today. Faye in the West Midlands has been in touch. Morning to you, Faye, and happy birthday. She's 46 today. Going out for breakfast, then going to play crazy golf, then hot dogs and burgers tonight with the nearest and dearest. Love the Queen and love watching you in the morning. Well, look, have a great day.
Yeah, happy birthday to you, Faye. Sharing it, of course, the official birthday of the Sovereign today. Penny's got in touch. I'm a huge fan of the Queen. I don't think you're alone, Penny, in that. She says, and of her family, and this very special occasion which we're witnessing, which is bound to be the best yet in the British ability to celebrate in style. Hear, hear. I'm so lucky to share my birthday each year with Her Majesty's official birthday.
This is your birthday too,
Yeah,
Penny.
happy birthday, Penny. So many people getting in touch with
all of
birthday
you.
wishes.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday all. Richard and Sam are having a lovely time. They're on the Odyssey of the Seas cruise ship in Mykonos.
Lovely.
Very nice, but you've got nice weather at the moment. But they say it's great to be watching events in the UK whilst they're on their cruise ship. You'd have to miss a trick, do you?
Yes, absolutely. Look, stay with us. We've got so many treats in store for you from this historic location. Christopher Biggins is going to be joining us shortly. He's waiting in the wings to share his memories of Her Majesty. That's after this.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
I love our very regal music this
Yeah,
morning.
it's lovely with the fly past in there as well.
Yes, very, very nice. Welcome back. It is 7:33 on the nose. We are live at Buckingham Palace. We're here all morning, actually, as the Queen celebrates that momentous Platinum Jubilee.
Well, still to come on this morning's programme, we're asking what kind of security will be in place for a day like today and how are the royal family protected, and included in that we'll be obviously talking about Harry and Meghan, who will be joining members of the royal family for the celebrations. We'll be asking a former head of royal security about all of that at around 7:45, and he'll be sharing some of the inside secrets, no doubt.
And coming up in the next hour, we're also going to be meeting the official royal pageant master, who's been getting up at 2:30 every morning for the last 6 weeks, preparing for this weekend celebration. So we'll try and get all the details from him just before 9 o'clock.
And don't forget, we love to hear from you, especially today, a historic moment and a time for us all to come together, share memories of Her Majesty, or indeed let us know how you're celebrating, or just share your affection for the royal family if that is how you feel. GBViews at gbnews.uk, or of course you can tweet us at GB News.
I've just got to tell you that Nigel's got in touch this morning. It says, morning Stephen and Isabel, from a very sunny and warm Wendron. We're celebrating the great occasion, having a pasty chased by a cheeky Cornish cream tea jam first, overlooking St Ives Bay. What a beautiful view.
Glorious. Well, I was going to say you can't beat the view here, but that sounds quintessentially British as well.
It does.
How lovely. Now, of course, it's no secret that Her Majesty has struggled in recent months with mobility issues, and although Her Majesty will try her best to attend the Jubilee celebrations in person over the next 4 days, some of the events planned will pose a few difficulties for her.
Yeah, one or two. Well, let's talk to someone who knows the royals rather well, actor and entertainer Christopher Biggins. Morning, Biggins. Good to see you.
Good morning,
You
Isabel.
know the
Good morning,
royals.
Stephen.
You know what they're like. I mean, she's one determined lady, isn't she? She's gonna get to however much of this she can, isn't she?
She is absolutely amazing. I think that was evident when the Royal Horse Show happened last week at Windsor, when she arrived, and she was just amazing. The fun she had. What is wonderful about the Queen is she has the most wonderful sense of humour, and that was shown, I think, very much so when she went to the horse show. I mean, A, she loves horses, and B, she was having a fun time, laughing and enjoying herself, and I loved it when it was said to her that she'd managed to get to the horse show but didn't get to Parliament a few days beforehand, and she just went, "No, honestly," you know, that was just wonderful.
Oh, fantastic. We love that about Her Majesty. If you can't pick and choose when you're the Queen what you attend, then when can you? But in all seriousness, today's Trooping the Colour, Biggins, you'll be aware, has been adapted a little bit for the first time in her reign. She won't actually be inspecting the troops herself. She's delegating that responsibility to her son, Prince Charles. But we've started to see a few adaptations, if you like, in recent weeks with the way she's been doing things. I think you were at Chelsea Flower Show last week on the day Her Majesty was there, and that's the first time we've seen her struggling through with those mobility issues.
Yes, I think, you know, listen, what is she, 96 years old? I mean, it's amazing she's still here. I mean, it's extraordinary. And not only still here, but really doing as much as she possibly can to celebrate this momentous occasion. I mean, she is truly a trooper. I mean, I don't think anyone else could do it. And I think, you know, at the flower show, which she really enjoys, she made a wonderful statement by going in that buggy around. And it's, you know, I was there in the morning seeing the flower show, and it's a long haul going around all those guns. It takes it out of you. Even someone as young as me. But I mean, Her Majesty the Queen, she was amazing.
I mean, it's interesting, because we talk about her mobility issues, and as you say, she's 96 for heaven's sakes. She is, though, sharp as a tack, isn't she?
Oh, an amazing wit. I mean, she has. Again, I talk of her sense of humour. I mean, she is really. She enjoys life, and I think that's what makes her such a wonderful monarch, and has made her such a wonderful monarch for the 7 decades. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, she really has if you meet her, she has a twinkle in her eye, and she really does enjoy it. I mean, there's a wonderful Miriam Margolyes story where Miriam Margolyes met the Queen at Buckingham Palace, and she interrupted Her Majesty the Queen when she was talking to someone, and she turned round to Miriam Margolyes and said, "Now shut up," in no uncertain terms, and absolutely floored Miriam completely, who was a great royalist and wanted to talk to her, but it wasn't right. She was talking to someone else, and wait your turn, Miriam. No, wonderful,
yeah,
a wonderful woman. Yeah, she is the best.
Biggins, what's been so wonderful over the last few days has been lots of the sort of archive digging that's been appearing on my timeline on social media, and I just last night was enjoying a clip of Her Majesty on the balcony for a previous occasion. I forget what the event was, but Prince George was very little, so Prince William was crouching down to tend to his son, and Her Majesty gives him an elbow and he leaps back into position, and you see Harry as well sort of wincing, and they know who's in charge.
Oh, I mean, she is the boss, and you do what the Queen says, you know, you don't muck around. And I hope against everything that she's going to make an appearance on the balcony, because I think that would be just wonderful if she did, because we all want to see her in her glory in her London home. I mean, I was in Edinburgh last week, and it was very exciting in Scotland that she was up there. She made that journey. You know, she got on an aeroplane, she went up and had a marvellous time in her favourite home on the estate, and she had a wonderful time. And she came down and had that terrible storm, which didn't floor her at all. I mean, she is amazing. I just love her to death. I think she's. I wonder if I can't propose to her, can I? That would be ridiculous.
No.
Shall I?
No.
Shall I?
No. You should. Mind you, keep talking to it. You should get yourself a damehood. That's the way to go.
I've already got one of those.
Oh gosh, a panto queen reflecting on Her Majesty. Biggins, we love having you on the show as always. Thanks for all of that. Great to see you.
Pleasure to see you. Have a great day.
Do stay with us.
Bye-bye.
We will, yeah. We've got lots still to come for you this morning, live from Buckingham Palace in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 7:42. Welcome back. This is Breakfast on GB News, on your TV, on your radio, online. You can tell it's a royal event.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how?
Go on.
Because our crew here, you can see there's loads and loads of people behind the cameras that you can't see. And sometimes they have bacon sandwiches and things in the morning. They're eating scones. This
Ooh,
morning.
so proper.
They're all eating scones. It's very, very British. Very British.
It's very British. Look, real sense of excitement here. The atmosphere really
It's lovely.
building.
It's
So
lovely.
many people in uniform, from police
Calm down, calm down.
to chaps on horseback,
Oh, that's thrown
people
up.
in the bands, yeah, no, all sorts. And it's a big parade, lots of pomp and ceremony, and we're bringing it all to you right here. So do not go anywhere. And of course, as part of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, a special pudding was created, a platinum pudding, no less. It
Yes.
was a 7-layer lemon Swiss roll with amaretti trifle in it, and very complicated, I believe, to try and recreate.
I thought it was meant to be like an easy pudding.
No.
Everyone's been invited to make
Involves
it
a
for
bit
their
of
street
coulis in
parties.
there.
Coulis? What is coulis?
Well, it's like a reduced kind of jus.
Jus. What's a jus?
Apricot. Well,
I don't
apparently
know.
Her Majesty had it, I think, as part of her wedding breakfast. Anyway, I defer to somebody who might know more about all of this. Her Majesty's former chef, no less, Darren McGrady, who joined us. A very good morning to you, Darren.
Good morning to you too.
You're joining us this morning all the way from America, so appreciate it. I have no idea what time it must be there. But just enlighten us a little bit about this trifle, if you will. It's not an easy one to put together.
I saw the recipe, and what surprised me was that the trifle one, I've never served trifle to the Queen in the 11 years that I cooked for her. So that'll be interesting.
So what did she like? What sort of tickles her taste buds?
Yeah, so I spent 11 years working for the Queen, rattling pounds at Buckingham Palace, all the royal residences around the world and on Royal Britannia. And one thing I can say is the Queen loves chocolate desserts. So anything dark chocolate, she absolutely adores.
Fantastic. I was watching a documentary that was released this week of some of her private footage and videos, and she talked about the celebrations on VE Day at the end of the Second World War, and she came out onto the balcony behind us to wave to the crowds. But in her diary at the time, she wrote that they couldn't eat anything because they were so excited that morning. She was just a youngster at the time, and I wondered if that's something that often happened for Her Majesty. Would nerves get the better of her for big occasions? Perhaps this morning, do you think she might be put off her breakfast ahead of the Platinum Jubilee?
One thing about the Queen that we do know is that she sticks to a routine, and so she'll just start with a regular breakfast of cereals and coffee this morning. There's no great big fry-up for the busy day ahead. It's troop in the colour. I used to love trooping when I was there. All the chefs used to prepare afternoon tea and then take leftovers up onto the roof, and we'd sunbathe and watch the fly past go over the head of us.
No way! What a wonderful thought. I
That's
wonder if
absolutely
that will be happening
perfect.
today.
I bet it will.
Oh, I hope so.
I bet it will.
Yeah.
Is it a nerve-wracking job, Darren? I mean, when you are cooking for the members of the royal family, and particularly Her Majesty, I mean, the pressure to get it right must be extraordinary.
You know, a state banquet, you know, where there's over 150 people, yeah, lots of pressure. Visiting kings, queens, presidents, you've got to get everything perfect. But the more pressure is actually when the Queen's at somewhere like Wood Farm, where she's been just a few months back, up in Sandringham, when she's there on her own and you're cooking for her then. I remember being up there and she was leaving after a weekend. The kitchen window was open and she walked along the footpath and she stopped, looked in the window and said, "Thank you. That was a lovely weekend." It doesn't get any better than that for a royal chef when the Queen just stops, looks through the kitchen window and says, "Thank you."
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet.
Talk about a royal seal of approval, but that's the real thing,
isn't it? Look, I know you're in Dallas at the moment, Darren, but I remember years ago, I've got a friend in Melton Mowbray, Jonathan McGrady, who said, I remember him saying to me, just when we had your name pop up, I thought, said something about a relative of his being a royal chef. Is that you then? Are you related to the McGradys of Melton Mowbray?
Yes, my father, Michael, is from Melton Mowbray. Jonathan's dad, his brother. Absolutely, yeah. I moved from the palace to Dallas. Yeah.
From the palace to Dallas. Wonderful. Well, look, we'll leave it on that note. Don't think you can top that. Darren McGrady, an absolute pleasure to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed. And don't forget, you can read more of Darren's recipes in his book, Eating Royally, or you can catch him cooking on his YouTube channel.
You see, that's got me a little bit peckish this morning.
What, do you fancy, a scone?
Or
a pork pie?
I don't know. Do you know what I fancy? What, a Melton Mowbray pork pie? Yeah, no, I tell you what I fancy is like a sort of a poached egg on royal toast. Whatever that is.
I think that's a bit of a far-fetch to expect that on a tent on stilts outside
Tent
Bucky.
on stilts,
Bucky
we haven't got
Keep.
that, no. We're lucky if we can get a coffee up here, but never mind. Who cares? We've got the view that everybody wants.
Yeah, we do.
Now, we're going to be back in just a moment. First, though, here's Rosie with the rest of the headlines.
Good morning, it's 7:48. Let's bring you up to date. Now, in the US, 5 people are dead after a shooting at a hospital in Tulsa. A gunman armed with a rifle and a handgun killed 4 people in Oklahoma before he was then fatally shot himself. It's after a series of mass shootings in the States. 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered at a primary school last week.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
Johnny Depp says he feels like he's got his life back after winning his defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife Amber Heard. The actor wasn't in court to hear the verdict. He was spotted at a pub in Newcastle last night. The jury unanimously found that Amber Heard acted with malice in a 2018 article in which she claimed she was the victim of sexual violence. Johnny Depp was awarded £12 million in damages. Russia has taken control of the most strategically important city of Severodonetsk in eastern Ukraine. That's the latest update from British military intelligence. The Ministry of Defence says Ukrainian troops probably still retain control of the main road and river line into the area. But Russia is making steady local gains. Here in the UK, the average price of petrol rose by 11 pence in May. That's the second largest monthly increase ever seen. RAC Fuel Watch found that a litre of unleaded rose to just over 174 pence by the end of last month. This increase comes despite the 5 pence per litre duty cut, which the Chancellor introduced in May. Patients in Scotland seeking urgent and unplanned medical attention will be offered at-home care to ease hospital A&E waiting times. The Scottish Government announced a package of more than £50 million to help reshape unscheduled care services. You're now up to date. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Well, if you are just tuning in or switching on the radio this morning, you join us from a beautiful sunny morning just outside Buckingham Palace. It's really absolutely amazing, and we've been reflecting all morning on that kind of hub, that hive of activity, that sense of excitement that's building. Lots of important work going on, not just cleaning and making sure that all of the bells and whistles are ready for the pageantry, but also to make sure that everything is secure and safe. We've seen the police dogs, haven't we, in the last half hour, and actually just over our shoulder we can see police officers preparing just to make sure everything is safe. It's a really important job.
Yes, we had to get our way past the police this morning, and they were, you know, they were all smiles, but you know, you want to stay on the right side of them. This is difficult though, isn't it, when it comes to security for something this high profile. Let's talk to former head of Royal Security, Di Davis, who joins us now, I think, from Snowdonia. Aren't you, Di? Beautiful. Look, I mean, there must be a tremendous amount of planning goes into something like this.
Well, very good morning to you. Yes, and I'm as excited as everybody else. But yes, in truth, there will have been months and months of preparation, both by the police, the security services, and even GCHQ. Because sadly, we have to remember we're still at that middle level of the 5 tiers of security in this country. And it says a terrorist attack is likely. Not imminent, but, you know, the Met Police, who are in overall charge of all the security for here, and indeed some of Windsor, they will have spent months and months, and they're very, very good. They've been doing this for so long now. They have particularly good teams doing it. And in addition, of course, you have my former colleagues, who, again, as far as I'm concerned, are world-class in terms of protection.
Well, in terms of the protection that the Sussexes have required, it's been a bit of an ongoing row, hasn't it, with Prince Harry threatening to sue the government and the Home Office in particular because he was told the Met Police were not for hire. And yet, here he is. He's brought his whole family, his little children, Lilibet and Archie, as well, along with his wife, Meghan. And he's been given, in inverted commas, cast iron assurances that he will be provided with security for the 4-day Platinum Jubilee. What will that involve? And I presume that means the row is ancient history.
Well, again, I've been commenting a little while on your programme and others about this. And again, what I always said, if the security assessment actually determines that he should get protection, then he will get that protection. And of course, living where he is now, in Frogmore House, and within the auspices of Buckingham Palace, and going to be there with Her Majesty, then clearly he will get the requisite security. Whether he will get it if he went off-piste, as it were, I don't know. At the end of the day, he's here. If that makes Her Majesty happy on this anniversary, that makes me happy as well.
It must be very difficult for those people working security. We're all having a great time. We're enjoying the moment and the celebration. But for those people, whether it's the Met Police or whether it is the Royal Security team, I mean, it's going to be a hard 4 days, isn't it, Di?
Well, it is, but they've had years and years of experience. I'm a historian now. One of the things I have, and I do lecture on, is the history, sadly, on attacks on the royal family. And Her Majesty is no different to any other of her predecessors. You know, there have been some numerous individuals and plots against her in that 70 years. Obviously, some of it I can't talk about because it's still an official secret. But some of it are public knowledge. And unfortunately, being the head of state, there are individuals and terrorist groups who have plotted, are plotting, I've no doubt, against her and other members of the royal family. And that's where the huge strain comes. It's not just terrorism. It's those people who are fixated, those who want publicity, those who are mentally ill. So you have a whole raft of individuals since George III. It never ends, I'm sad to say, because there are those individuals and organisations. In my day, it was the Provisional IRA who are my greatest concern. Now it's ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and others. You know, in the last few days, we've heard of people trying to get into Buckingham Palace, and they do almost on a weekly basis, and other royal residences. It's not just the Queen, it's her whole family that one has to protect. And indeed, in my day, we had 22 of them.
Well, look, as you say, though, the best in the business, Di, and they will keep everyone safe, I'm sure. It's really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, and you have a good day yourselves.
Lots of... Thank you, Di. Enjoy Snowdonia. We'll make the best of Buckingham Palace whilst we're here. Look, we've been asking for you to get in touch this morning, people at home, viewers, listeners, wherever you may be, with your memories, with your thoughts, or indeed how you're celebrating. And we've been sent this from great-gran Marlene. She says, "Good morning, all. My beautiful great-grandson, Dennis, very excited, is all dressed up and ready for our Queen's Jubilee. We hope you all have a great day."
Yeah, and
wow,
I'll tell you what,
absolutely superb.
If you're on the radio, just imagine a small blonde boy with a crown and as many Union flags as you can think of. Because it's all there. He looks fantastic. Look, don't go anywhere. We're back with continuous coverage in just a couple of minutes.
Good morning, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. The Jubilee weekend is upon us, and certainly for most of us, the start of it is looking pretty good. It's going to be a fine day out there, plenty of sunshine. Bit chilly first thing, but warming up by this afternoon. There is one exception. This little weather front is just drifting its way towards Northern Ireland. So here we are going to see increasing amounts of cloud, and we will also see some outbreaks of rain working in from the west. There is also the possibility of cloud bubbling up and providing one or two scattered showers over Scotland and northern England through the day today, but they'll be very well scattered. Most places won't see the showers, just stay dry and fine with sunny spells. It is pretty fresh out there if you're just about to step out, but by this afternoon it'll feel pretty warm. The winds are light, the sun is strong, and temperatures in the south getting over 20 Celsius. Cooler across the far northeast and a bit cooler with the cloud increasing for Northern Ireland. The rain may not get to Belfast till later on, but it will move in here. Quite a wet evening it looks like for Northern Ireland, and it doesn't stop there. The rain will move its way across the Irish Sea towards southwest Scotland, northwest England, North Wales overnight. Otherwise, though, most of us having a fine, dry evening and staying dry and clear overnight. Again, temperatures could drop down to single figures where we keep the clear skies, so a chilly start to Friday. Friday tomorrow is not quite as straightforward as today. It does look as if it'll be cloudier for Wales, western parts of England, southwest Scotland with maybe one or two showers, and still for Northern Ireland too. Any showers across central and eastern parts, few and far between. So again, most places across eastern England and much of northern and central Scotland, dry and fine with some sunshine. And in the sunny spells, temperatures again getting into the low 20s, feeling pretty pleasant. Some of these North Sea coast a little fresher on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, well, still some sunshine certainly across the north, but in the south likely to turn cloudier with an increasing chance of some showers.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Her Majesty the Queen becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
Good morning. It is 1 minute past 8 on Thursday, the 2nd of June, and this is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Isabel. We are live from Buckingham Palace. It never gets old saying that.
It doesn't. It's absolutely amazing, and welcome aboard. Coming up on the programme this morning, millions of people around the country and the world will today celebrate the Queen's 70 years of service as she becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
A new portrait of Her Majesty has been released, and in a special message, the Queen has said the day was an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years.
The historic occasion will be marked by Trooping the Colour, the Sovereign's personal inspection of British and Commonwealth troops, and it will culminate in an appearance on the Buckingham Palace balcony of the Queen and members of the working royal family.
Well, the festivities today, of course, kicking off a bank holiday weekend of celebrations. We're expecting about 200,000 local events and street parties taking place right across the country.
And a pair of 11-year-old twins who raised £50,000 for NHS charities, as well as the actor Damian Lewis and the illustrator Quentin Blake, are just a few of those who've been named in the Queen's Jubilee Birthday Honours list.
Loads of you getting in touch this morning. We absolutely love to hear from you. A quick one from Guy, who says it's hard not to smile whilst watching this morning show with two presenters being so positive and happy. Well, what's not to be positive and happy about today? It's a moment of history, it really is. Anyway, loads more views that we will go through very shortly, but in the meantime, if you want to join our discussions, tell us what you're up to, how you're celebrating, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet us at GB News.
And just a little reminder, don't forget you can subscribe to the GB News channel on YouTube. Quite a good day to do it, to be honest. Lots there on all the big stories of the day that everyone's talking about, and frankly, there's only one. Well, as you can see, we are live this morning from a sun-drenched Buckingham Palace. We'll be here all through the morning, bringing you everything you need to know about this landmark day. I have to say, lots going on. We just saw the regimental mascot.
We did.
The Irish Wolfhound, who's part of the Trooping Colour celebrations. He'll be walked, I suppose is the term, for taking the dog down the Mall a little bit later on, followed by the royals.
It's a huge thing.
Huge, absolutely, almost like a horse in his own right.
What is fascinating is all the little bits of preparation.
Yeah.
We've seen members of the household cavalry getting some of the horses sort of limbered up for today. We've seen members of one military band walking, carrying their chairs with them. And I just heard over there, Isabel, another military band practicing, had the drums going.
Had them warming up.
So
yes.
it's just all these little tasters of what's going to come today.
Yes.
So there's lots to look forward to, but our royal reporter Cameron Walker looks back now at what has been a historic reign for Queen Elizabeth.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
Her Majesty the Queen, speaking in 2015 when she overtook her great-great-grandmother Queen Victoria as Britain's longest reigning monarch. This year, we celebrate her Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. Trooping the Colour is a large part of June's celebrations and has marked the official birthday of the British sovereign for more than 2 centuries. 96 years ago, the then Princess Elizabeth was born, not in a palace, but in a townhouse. She wasn't expected to be queen, but her uncle, King Edward VIII's sudden abdication to marry an American divorcee propelled Elizabeth up the line of succession.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
Even on her birthday, Her Majesty continues with duties and works through her daily red box of government papers. 14 British Prime Ministers have served her, as well as 15 Australian and 12 Canadians. She has advised and guided each of them through troubled times, while always knowing when to lighten the mood.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
Last night, a specially commissioned Platinum Jubilee portrait was released to mark the beginning of the celebrations. The Queen hopes that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Well, the Palace has released, as you saw in Cameron's report there, that new portrait to celebrate the Queen's 70 years on the throne. If you are listening on the radio, you're going to have to get on the app or whatever, download the app and have a look at this. It is a beautiful photograph taken in the Victoria Vestibule at Windsor Castle by Ranald.
I'm glad you've got to pronounce it this time. McKechnie, I've been going with, but they've worked together quite a lot. McKechnie, yes, Ranald McKechnie. Yes, he did the Queen's portrait, you might remember, for her 90th birthday, and he also did one to mark the start of the new decade just 2 years ago in 2020. So they obviously have a good relationship. What a stunning photo it is as well.
It's beautiful. It's warm.
It's really
inviting. She just looks lovely.
And it's also somehow understated. It's not in a crown. It's not, draped in diamonds. It's there, sitting in Windsor Castle, which we know that she really loves, and all the history that the castle carries with it as well. An absolutely stunning photograph. She also put out a message last night, Her Majesty, which has been lovely to reflect on this morning. Stephen and I have been talking about that today. She said thank you to everyone, all of us, who's been involved in convening communities, families, neighbours and friends to mark my Platinum Jubilee in the United Kingdom and across the Commonwealth.
Yeah, she says, I continue to be inspired by the goodwill shown to me, which is nice, isn't it? And hope that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years.
Quite a lot.
As we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. And I think that's the nicest line in it all. It's not just, she's not saying it's all about her,
Absolutely.
is she? She's saying it's all about the future, which is, it's a sort of selfless comment, really.
Which is just so typical of Her Majesty. Let's bring in royal broadcaster and commentator, friend of the show, and with us throughout the whole of our broadcast this morning, Rafe Hadel-Mancu. Just some reflections from you, first of all, on those words from Her Majesty, and particularly that comment about feeling confident for the future, very assured in her position.
Very assured, but I noticed there that she was saying how much she appreciated the goodwill shown to her, because we're not actually just celebrating 70 years of a reign, it's the whole life of service. The Queen is almost 100 years old, you know. The monarchy's only been around for 1,000 years, if you go back to William the Conqueror. 1/10 of that history, the Queen has been intrinsically involved with it.
Oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
It's a remarkable span of life. And we look at history really in terms of centuries, and that's our collective memory. And the Queen has been with us through all of the points of our collective history. First on that balcony for the Silver Jubilee of King George V, and then 10 years later in 1945 with Winston Churchill standing there on May the 8th for VE Day with her sister and her parents. They're all gone, only the Queen remains. For every major event that we can think of, the Queen has been intrinsically involved or symbolised in some way. And that's why I think we can all together celebrate not only the Queen, but it's a celebration of British history, the evolution of our country over that century.
What will be nice to see, of course, is when she is in Buckingham Palace, which she isn't at the moment. She will still be in Windsor, won't she? We know because the Union flag is flying. We will get the Royal Standard, but you're saying we're going to get a whacking great big one.
Yes, so we've all got our eye firmly planted onto the flagpole there. There are basically 4 or 5 different size flags depending on the occasion. There's usually quite a small one, which is 12 by 6 feet. Then you get for garden parties a bigger one, state visits a bigger one. But for this weekend, there'll be the big stonking 38-foot flag coming out, which is basically half the size of a tennis court. So that's going to be quite something to behold.
Well, that should happen before we go off air, because, you know, we're expecting royal families, members of the royal family to be coming out of those gates just behind us from about 10 o'clock this morning, then processing down the Mall into Horse Guards Parade, trooping the colour. Just explain a little bit about what we can expect to see, who we can expect to see, and what the significance is of it.
So the procession starts around 10 a.m. The royal family will come out at about 10:30, and they'll slowly process down the Mall. The Prince of Wales, the Duke of Cambridge and the Princess Royal will be on their horses in their capacity as colonels of the Irish Guard, Welsh Guard and the Blues and Royals, and you'll have all of the marching bands. Today is a day about pomp and pageantry. You know, this weekend's got parties and concerts and pageants, but for pomp and pageantry, it's really today that's the day to see it, with 1,500 troops, 400 members of military bands, 200 horses. It's going to be quite a spectacle to behold.
Can I ask about the troops side of it all? Because that is something, I mean, the Queen is passionate about the armed forces, isn't she? Because she knows full well that those often young men and women swear their allegiance to Queen and country. I mean, they really do see her as their boss.
It's a very important part of monarchies whereby we say to the Prime Minister, you've got the right to rule, but actually the real power is held by the people on behalf of by the sovereign. And actually it's to the sovereign that there's loyalty. So you can disagree with your government, but you remain loyal to the sovereign. And of course the Queen wore uniform during World War II. The royal family have always had a very deep connection to the royal family, and that's why the Queen has not missed a single trooping the colour in her life, apart from once in 1955 when there was a train strike.
Well, fair enough, we'll let her off for that one. Rafe, just whilst you were speaking, I could just see over your shoulders gentlemen in boater hats and ladies with fascinators. We're just next to Birdcage Walk, for those of you who know London, and members of the public who've bought tickets are making their way through St James's Park, up the, or I should say down the Mall to Horse Guards Parade, where at about 11 o'clock all of the royal family members that will be attending will be in situ to watch that inspection, which, as Rafe was explaining, will be for the first time conducted today by Prince Charles and his son Prince William, and also I think Princess Anne will be involved in that. So just setting the scene a little bit for you about what's going on here. Rafe Hendel-Mancu, thank you so much. We'll have more from you a little bit later on.
They do say Princess Anne
yeah.
is one of the hardest working royals.
You shouldn't have a favourite. It's a bit like your children, but I do, and I have to say she's one of my favourites, Princess Anne. She's no nonsense, no frills. She knows what she likes, and she gets on with it. And I have to say, you know, her children just wonderful. I was lucky enough to meet Zara recently, and the fact that she's Olympian and a royal, you know, just so many achievements, and she's just an absolutely delightful person.
I think she's closest to her mother in terms of character and attitude. She does more hours than any other royal, more or less, and this all goes by largely unsung. She's not one for PR and spin and celebrity, which I think might be a lesson for some other younger members of the royal family.
Yes. We were talking earlier on about security and the sniffer dogs. I'm going to say now we've got sniffer dogs up here. Do you want to sniff round our feet?
Come in. Here we go.
You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything.
It's actually your little canine four-legged friend that we're interested in. What's his name?
She's called Poppy.
Hello, Poppy. Same name as my daughter. Hello, Poppy.
I tell you what, although it's lovely to see you and it's lovely to see Poppy, it's an important job you're doing, isn't it? So, yeah.
What's she looking for?
Explosives.
Explosives.
Right.
Pleased to say nothing here.
We're clear.
Good to
Lovely.
know.
We'll let you get on with it. Thank you very much indeed. So, you know, all these people, the Met Police and everyone else, really doing their jobs and making sure that this is a safe and joyous day. And it's, you know, I love to see the security services and the police at work when it's all for the good of the people like this, and I just love it.
Well, Stephen, over our career, how many times we've been out and outside broadcasts, big events, quite often tragic events, whether it's been a bombing or whatever, and we've seen this kind of security, but without a smile on their face. But everybody is smiling. From the minute we walked through those gates at 5:10 this morning, one of the police officers was singing at the top of his lungs, and there is that real sense of excitement and national coming together, and it's just wonderful.
Lovely.
It's lovely.
Lovely. Poppy's off now. She's
Bye, Poppy.
She's going down the stairs from our tent on
Do you know,
stilts.
when I said to my family I wanted to call my daughter Poppy, my dad did say it is in the top 3 dog names, you know, just as long as you're aware of that, still went for it.
Yeah,
it's a lovely name.
It was better than some of the other ones you were I remember at the time when you were pregnant, you were coming up with some weird and wonderful names. Thankfully Poppy was quite sensible, I think. Anyway, look, there's lots happening today. This is what's coming up then. Let's run you through the agenda if you like, and later this morning the Queen's birthday parade will travel through the city. That's what we generally call Trooping the Colour.
Yeah, so between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, once Trooping the Colour has been conducted, we can expect a fly past, a real highlight for so many people. The royal family, or members of the working royal family, will be gathered on the balcony at Buckingham Palace just behind us to watch that. And of course, members of the public lining visiting the Mall to see it as well.
Now, tomorrow there'll be a service of thanksgiving for the Queen's reign. That will be held at St Paul's Cathedral.
On Saturday, the 4th of June, members of the royal family will then attend the Derby at Epsom.
And on Sunday, of course, people right across the country, including us here at GB News, will take part in lots of Jubilee street parties. There's a big lunch, and then in the afternoon, the Platinum Jubilee pageant is going to take place. We're going to be in Wolverhampton on Sunday morning. Me and Anne, we're going to be in Codsall, near Wolverhampton, for a big street
I'm
party.
sure it'll be really lively at 6 in the morning.
We're going to drag everyone. If you live in Codsall, we're going to drag you out of your beds. We'll provide the tea and scones. You have to come and join us for a chat.
You know what we didn't mention on that little menu there, and that, of course, is the big concert that's going to take place on Saturday night right behind us. That's what these big stages, and again, we're not really supposed to turn our back on you at home, but I think on an occasion like this, you'll forgive us. You can see the stage directly in front of the balcony, and yesterday evening, you could hear Ed Sheeran and all sorts practicing and performing and rehearsing, and then just over Stephen's left shoulder are all the seats that members of the public who are lucky enough to be coming, presumably royals as well, will be sitting. But you'll remember it was Queen's, I forget his name now, a member of Queen who was playing...
Oh, Brian May.
Brian May, sorry.
He
was on the roof.
He was on the roof.
And many royal names today.
There just look like there's a bit of staging on that roof. So I don't know if Brian's, because Brian is going to be performing with Queen, with Adam Lambert performing. Roger Taylor on drums. So Queen are going to be performing.
Yes, that'll be quite an performance.
That's going to be phenomenal.
But I
Good
tell
luck,
you,
Brian.
nobody on the roof at the moment at Buckingham Palace, but there are snipers up there. We spotted those already. And what I loved as well was the story from the royals' former chef for 11 years, and he said he loved trooping the colour because after they'd finished, they'd prepare an afternoon tea for the royals to have when they got home. But once their job was done, they'd go and sit on the roof and enjoy the fly past,
afternoon tea.
which I just think is such a lovely image, and I hope they do it again today.
Yeah, quite right too. You've got to make the most of it. Look, we will stop waffling for now and leave you in a bit of peace while Rosie brings you the rest of the headlines.
It's 18 minutes past 8. This is GB News. I'll bring you up to date with the other stories making the headlines. In the US, 5 people are dead after a shooting at a hospital in Tulsa. A gunman armed with a rifle and a handgun killed 4 people in Oklahoma before he was fatally shot himself. 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered at a primary school last week.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
Amber Heard says she's disappointed after losing her defamation lawsuit against ex-husband and actor Johnny Depp. The jury unanimously found she acted with malice in a 2018 article in which she claimed she was the victim of sexual violence. Johnny Depp was in a pub in Newcastle when it emerged he'd been awarded £12 million in damages. Amber Heard was separately awarded £1.6 million after jurors found Mr Depp's lawyer defamed her when he called her abuse claim a hoax. Russia has taken control of the most strategically important city of Severodonetsk in eastern Ukraine. That's the latest update from British military intelligence. The Ministry of Defence says Ukrainian troops probably still retain control of the main road and river line into the area, but Russia's making steady local gains. The UK Home Secretary has told Conservative MPs pushing for the Prime Minister to resign to forget it. Speaking to the Daily Mail, Priti Patel said writing letters of no confidence in Boris Johnson was a sideshow and that the party should instead be focused on finding solutions for the real challenges that people face. Nearly 30 Conservative MPs have now publicly criticised the Prime Minister's conduct or called for a vote of confidence. Emergency doctors are warning there is no give in the system as they expect extra pressure over the bank holiday weekend. The Society for Acute Medicine says longer ambulance waits and long stays in emergency departments are expected over the 4-day break. NHS bosses are advising people to use services wisely and to call 111 for any non-urgent medical needs. You're up to date. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Rosie, thank you very much indeed for that. We'll be back for more headlines from you at around 9:15. But for now, we are reflecting on the thousands of people across the UK who have flocked to London, to the capital today to celebrate. And our reporter, Alice Porter, has the really enjoyable job of being in and amongst the crowds this morning, really soaking up that atmosphere, that positivity. It's so unusual in this job, Alice, to be just smiling from ear to ear all morning, isn't it? So who are you with this hour?
It really is. I have to say the excitement is building along the Mall with tens of thousands of people who are all lining the road, of course, ready for the trooping of the colour. An exciting and historic moment where we mark the Queen's official birthday. Now I'm here out mingling with the crowd, speaking to lots of people, and of course I saw these wonderful ladies in their hats. Look at that. You all look absolutely brilliant. Tell me, where have you come from today?
We've come from Mansfield in Nottinghamshire.
Right, and whose idea were the hat and the, I mean, look at this.
Alice and me.
Now, I know this is your first time that you've come down for Trooping the Colour. I mean, what are you most exciting for?
Just to see everything, the pomp, we want to see the Queen, obviously, but just the whole atmosphere, it's amazing.
And any particular moments that you're looking forward to? Anything in particular?
Balcony, fly past, trooping all of the horses, everything.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a good spot here. I mean, you're on with your coffees and you've staked your space, and so you're going to be hopefully looking up to the sky in that direction for the fly past.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Can't wait for that. It's going to be amazing.
And what time should you have to get here this morning to kind of claim the space?
7:15.
Oh,
yeah, not too early. Not too early. We've not camped out, but we're on with coffee. We're prepared to wait.
Well, listen, have a fabulous day. It was very nice to meet you. I need to try and get myself one of those hats and a safe journey back home. I think that gives you a flavour there of people who have been very keenly waiting to see the Queen and the royal family on, of course, a very monumentous day.
It certainly is lovely. Thank you very much, and we're going to keep catching up with Alice as she mingles. In the meantime, let's talk to our very own royal reporter, Cameron Walker, who's joined us up here in our tent. Good morning.
Good morning. What a lovely day for it as well. I can't believe how good the weather is.
I just wonder, Cameron, as someone who is, you know, you're young compared to us two,
steady on.
us crusty ones, you know, you've only recently landed the job as the GB News royal reporter.
Yeah.
And this is the first big major assignment, a moment of absolute real history for our country.
It's incredible. The first time ever in British history we have celebrated a platinum jubilee, 70 years on the throne, 70 years of service Her Majesty has provided us with. And I think people camping out on the Mall, you know, 2-3 days ago just shows, I think, the dedication of the British people towards the monarchy and how ready we are for the celebration after a global pandemic with the war in Eastern Europe. It's something to celebrate, finally.
With the passing of Prince Philip last year, the Duke of Edinburgh, a lot of us have been reminded not only about sort of fragility of life, but also seeing Her Majesty being ill in recent months and out of the public eye for a long time, struggling with COVID. We're all reminded that at 96, you know, she's fragile, and this could be a rare opportunity perhaps to see her on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. With that in mind, do you think that this message that she's put out overnight, talking about the future and feeling confident in it, is a real sort of subtle message to say, I'm happy with everything, ducks are in a row?
I think perhaps it's definitely perhaps a sign of handing things over to the next generation. I mean, today, Trooping the Colour, Prince Charles, her son, is going to be taking the royal salute on Her Majesty's behalf. Her Majesty will be staying at Buckingham Palace and will do a separate royal salute from the balcony a little bit later on. But I think you're right. I think, you know, when Prince Charles does eventually become king, we are going to see a much more slimmed down version perhaps of the monarchy. And another sign of that will be today when we see the royal flypasts and extended members of the royal family will not be on the balcony. It's limited to working members of the royal family only, so much more slimmed down.
I was reading about that, you know, yesterday, and about how over the years you can kind of tell a little bit about the thinking within Buckingham Palace about the future of the monarchy of the time based on who's on the balcony.
Yes.
And in previous years reported that the Wessexes were upset and that Prince Andrew had been upset about being excluded. Neither of them will be on the balcony today, will they? Well, the Wessexes
Yeah, the Wessexes will be. Prince Andrew will not be. So I think perhaps it was either a sign of slimming down the monarchy when this was announced about a month ago, But also, I think the palace were keen to avoid any overshadowing of this weekend, because after all, it is a celebration of Her Majesty the Queen, and having the Duke of York on the balcony, having the Duke and Duchess of Sussex on the balcony, inevitably would have attracted attention away from the main event itself.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting how it has all been handled in quite a diplomatic way? I mean, the Queen has handled this very well, because this has got to be down to her wishes.
Yes, I believe so, and from my understanding, we are expecting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to be at Trooping the Colour a bit later on. They'll be in the Major General's office watching, so out of sight of perhaps the cameras. But yes, I think you're right. I think Her Majesty still very much has her hand on the tiller, as it were, and is overseeing and is still very much the head of the family, head of the monarchy, and the head of state.
It's interesting because obviously within your job now, you've got to look at all these complex issues, and the royal family is a complex thing. But how much, that aside, are you just looking forward to some of the pageantry that we're going to see today?
I think it's a moment in history, isn't it? And it's the great British tradition. It's something that Trooping the Colour ceremony has been going on for 260 or so years, and it hasn't really changed its format since then. And I think it's why tourism's so extensive to Great Britain, and why we are famous around the world for our tradition, for our pomp, for our ceremony, and just celebrating everything that is good about Great Britain.
It's interesting because Trooping the Colour is normally the first Saturday in June, but it's been moved to mark the first day of this Platinum weekend because it is also the Queen's official birthday today.
Yes.
And so just explain a little bit about what that means, because actually Her Majesty turned 96 earlier in the year, didn't she?
Yes, she did. So her actual birthday was April 26th, so that is when she turned 96. But because she's the monarch, she has an official birthday as well. Usually, as you say, that's the second Saturday in June. It's been moved forward to coincide with her the coronation day, June the 2nd, 1953, when she was coronated this year. Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
Well, we were just discussing, goodness me, I don't know, it moved on in my head.
I've just been admiring the pomp and ceremony.
Everyone's forgotten.
I know. I was asking you about, what it was all to remember today. The date's been it's her official birthday, but also it's the start of the weekend. It's not easy with my long questions to forget exactly where I'm going.
Sorry, it's early in the morning, isn't it? Yes. So I believe it was George II, or 300 years ago, one of the monarchy's birthdays was actually in the winter, and he wanted a summer party because inevitably British weather is usually pretty poor in November, December time, so he wanted a separate celebration in the summer, early June, where the weather perhaps is more likely to be better. So that's why that's the tradition of the two birthdays for a monarch.
Right. You see, now she just puts you off your stride, doesn't she?
No, it was me waffling on for a few minutes and then forgetting.
We like a waffle.
Okay.
Although it's so interesting to note that they moved the date for better weather, but was it the Silver Jubilee or the last one when Prince Philip got seriously ill?
Diamond Jubilee.
They had awful weather, the Diamond Jubilee, and in fact the coronation, which was on this day 69 years ago, pouring rain as well, so no guarantee of sunshine. Great British weather. You can't even bank on it on the 2nd of June.
No, certainly not. But thank God that it is really good weather this time around. As you said, the Diamond Jubilee 10 years ago, it was a complete washout. On the pageant on the River Thames with the Duke of Edinburgh, the Queen, the next day the Duke of Edinburgh took ill and had to go to hospital with a heart problem. So yes, this year the weather is looking like this is going to be a day to remember for all the right reasons.
Yes, it certainly is. Lovely stuff. We shall catch up with you a little bit later on. In the meantime, coming up for you, talking of flotillas and things, we're going to go to the Humber Estuary, where a 70-boat flotilla will be setting off to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee a little bit later on today.
Good morning, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. The Jubilee weekend is upon us, and certainly for most of us, the start of it is looking pretty good. It's going to be a fine day out there. Plenty of sunshine. Bit chilly first thing, but warming up by this afternoon. There is one exception. This little weather front is just drifting its way towards Northern Ireland. So here we are going to see increasing amounts of cloud, and we will also see some outbreaks of rain working in from the west. There is also the possibility of cloud bubbling up and providing one or two scattered showers over Scotland and Northern England through the day today, but they'll be very well scattered. Most places won't see the showers, just stay dry and fine, with sunny spells. It is pretty fresh out there if you're just about to step out, but by this afternoon it'll feel pretty warm. The winds are light, the sun is strong, and temperatures in the south getting over 20 Celsius. Cooler across the far northeast and a bit cooler with the cloud increasing for Northern Ireland. The rain may not get to Belfast till later on, but it will move in here. Quite a wet evening it looks like for Northern Ireland, and it doesn't stop there. The rain will move its way across the Irish Sea towards southwest Scotland, northwest England, North Wales overnight. Otherwise, though, most of us having a fine, dry evening and staying dry and clear overnight. Again, temperatures could drop down to single figures where we keep the clear skies, so a chilly start to Friday. Friday, tomorrow is not quite as straightforward as today. It does look as if it'll be cloudier for Wales, western parts of England, southwest Scotland with maybe 1 or 2 showers, and still for Northern Ireland too. Any showers across central and eastern parts, few and far between. So again, most places across eastern England and much of northern and central Scotland, dry and fine with some sunshine. And in the sunny spells, temperatures again getting into the low 20s, feeling pretty pleasant. Some of these North Sea coasts a little fresher on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, well, still some sunshine certainly across the north, but in the south likely to turn cloudier with an increasing chance of some showers.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 8:34. Good morning. We're waving our flags just because.
It's all about flags. We're on flag watch, aren't we?
We are on flag watch because we're waiting for the Royal Standard.
It's the Union flag flying at the moment, which they've flown ever since Princess Diana died, if I'm correct. But now we're waiting for the Standard to be flown, which is a signal that Her Majesty has arrived from Windsor Castle ahead of Trooping the Colour this morning.
Oh, yes. I could do this all morning.
I know, it's getting a bit windy, so I thought we'll pick them up before they blow away, but it's... yeah, it's quite therapeutic, isn't it?
It's just nice to be part. It's nice to feel part of the celebrations
It does.
in our own tiny little way.
Yeah, and bringing everybody at home, whether they're listening or watching with us this morning, because what a day for the nation, what a day for Her Majesty. And we have
isn't it
a
just?
packed programme, lots more still to come.
Yeah, still to come for you. We're going to meet the official royal pageant
Tough
master.
gig, that.
That is a tough gig. He's been getting up at 2:30 every morning for the last 6 weeks preparing for this weekend's celebration. So we're going to try and get a few more details from him just before 9 o'clock.
And as the Queen's Honours List has been announced, we'll be catching up with Arlene Foster, soon to be known to you and me as Dame Arlene Foster, of course, presenter on GB News, and she's going to be joining us at around 9:20 this morning. Congratulations to her.
Yes, indeed. And, of course, we want to hear from you this morning, find out what you're getting up to. Loads of you getting in touch this morning. I've got to say, Liz, I love this Liz. She was 4 at the time of the coronation. We had a TV, as my dad was a TV engineer. As our neighbours were arriving to watch the coronation, there was a knock on the door. It was a policeman. They wanted my dad's help, as the one at the station wouldn't work. By the time my dad came back, he could hardly get into the house because it was so crowded. He did his duty. He did his duty.
I want to read this one out quickly. Paul says, when our Queen came to town, me and my wife were outside the railway station. She came off the railway station to be presented with flowers, then got in her car. And as she was passing us, she saw the flag and looked up to us with the biggest smile I've ever seen. And she was frantically waving at us with both hands. It was brilliant. How incredible to see Her Majesty, the whites of her eyes, in a kind of impromptu meeting like that. Keep those stories coming in.
Love it.
We'd love to hear your reflections on meeting Her Majesty on such an amazing day.
Yeah, GB Views at gbnews.uk or tweet us at GB News.
Now, people in East Yorkshire are celebrating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee today with a flotilla of 70 boats which will cross the Humber estuary and their own flypast of 2 RAF Battle of Britain Spitfires.
Oh, lovely. Our reporter Anna Riley is near the Humber Bridge for us. Morning, morning. When does all this start?
Good morning. Yes, this is all set to start this evening, but there's been a lot of preparation that has gone into it, and we're joined here by Phil. He's an advisor to Hessle Town Council. Tell us about all the preparation that's been going into this Jubilee event.
Oh, it's been mammoth. The Hessle Town Council events team have really pulled every stop out that's been possible. 13 months of planning.
And tell us about what's going on this evening then in the flotilla.
Well, the flotilla leaves Hull at 7 o'clock and arrives here at about 8 p.m. in the evening. Obviously the crowds will all be out waiting, but in anticipation of that we've got lots of events happening on the foreshore, including a musical stage, entertainments, children's arts and crafts and things like that.
Lots for people to do. Thank you, Phil. A lot's gone into it. And we're also joined by Nigel. He's gone from a slightly smaller ladder, because you were up a bigger ladder, weren't you, Nigel?
We put the 2 10-metre poles on top of the Humber Bridge yesterday, and that's the highest that I've ever put. The flagpole record was 300, now we're 510 feet.
And how long did that take you to put those up?
It took us 8 hours to actually raise them from the ground to the top, and with the fixings and everything else, you can say a couple of days, but they're very, very safe.
We can briefly sort of see us behind them, so they're on one at the south bank side and one at the north.
That is correct. You can see them in the centre of the towers, and the flags are flying.
And is this the first time that this has been done on the bridge?
Yes, it is.
So an original for the Jubilee.
Original for the Jubilee, and what a Jubilee it's going to be.
Definitely. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you.
What a Jubilee it's going to be. Certainly a lot of excited people here in Hessle today in the run-up to those events this evening. And that mammoth task, 500 feet in the air, those 2 Union flags.
I'll tell you what, Anna, thank you very much indeed. You're a brave fella. It's a brave fella being up there. Because, I mean, getting on the top of those towers, I don't know if you've driven over the Humber Bridge, it feels very high just when you're driving across it. Never mind climbing up there. Fantastic.
I just love the thought of all the different corners of the UK coming together today, celebrating in all their unique ways, and whether it be street parties on Sunday or things like Anna was just describing there. Fantastic to see and to hear, and just so needed after what we've been through after the pandemic. We just all need a good knees up, don't we?
And it feels very British.
It does.
And it's too often we're almost a bit embarrassed to be British sometimes. And
Not today.
Not today. It's right. Quite. We should be British and proud. Fabulous.
Look, stay
Absolutely
with
love
us.
it.
We're going to be celebrating all things British, and we're going through the newspapers this morning with Norman Baker. We'll see you in just a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, we are here nice and early at Buckingham Palace. The nice thing is, of course, we get to see the preparations, the little bits and bobs falling into place. And have a look at this. They're dressing the balcony now, ready for the appearance of Her Majesty the Queen a little bit later on with working members of the royal family. And look at that, does it make a difference?
It does. Do you know that 18 members of the royal family will be on that very balcony you can see there that they are preparing? So we will see Her Majesty, Prince Charles, the Duchess of Cornwall. We'll see the Cambridges, including the little ones. We'll see Princess Anne and her husband, the Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence. We'll see the Wessexes, including their children. And then the Queen's cousins, the Gloucesters and the Duke of Kent and Princess Alexandra. Because, of course, it is just working royals in this slimmed-down monarchy that will be there as per Her Majesty's wishes. Lots of other royals will be in attendance today in the background at Horse Guards Parade, but only those 18 will be on the balcony to watch that fly past. That's about 1 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But I'll tell you what, there's something rather exciting about just seeing all that come out and making it all nice and ready for the Queen.
Yes.
We've got the papers. Yes. We'll take you with Royal Author and former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. What do you make of it, Norman, when we actually see all this come out? It's quite nice, isn't it?
Live TV, isn't it? And it's all happening as we speak. Yes, indeed. And yes, we haven't been this close to that particular element of royalty before. Yeah. The balcony decorations.
So are you going to write another book? Because obviously you are a royal author and mention these moments, because it is a historic day, and I think historians today will be writing down events, and this will be remembered for years to come.
Well, it's bound to be remembered for years to come. I mean, it is a unique day, not just a special day, a unique day, because we've never had a monarch go on for 70 years before, and the world barely has had a monarch go on for 70 years before, so it is a major achievement.
It is. And as she marks this, the Queen has written a message to the nation, and it's in the Daily Mail, lots of papers this morning, but it's just fascinating what she's had to say.
Well, indeed, and the funny thing is, reading this, thank you to everyone who's been involved in convening communities, families, and so on. She goes on. You can hear her say it, actually, when you read it. You can hear her voice behind that, and she talks about the goodwill shown to her, and indeed the looking forward to the future with confidence and enthusiasm, which is an interesting point to make. I'm not sure everybody feels that way about the future, but I mean, she clearly does.
Well, I suppose her perspective is different from everybody else's. I mean, do you think from that she is talking about her family and the monarchy, the future of the monarchy? Because dare I say, on a day like today, it's a conversation that's being had at the moment, if not today. It's certainly, you know, the future of the monarchy, certainly in other countries, is up for debate. We've had Australia just this week appointing a Minister of Republic.
Well, I mean, I don't want to spoil the party in a sense by talking about that in great detail, but clearly the Commonwealth countries who have got the Queen as head of state may take a different view when the Queen is no longer around. That's certainly true. No, I think in fact she's talking about confidence, enthusiasm for the country, which is why I think that's a nice thing to say, but maybe slightly optimistic.
No, do you know what though? I do think it is quite nice that people do take their lead from the Queen. You know, I think if we know that she's optimistic, then it gives us a bit more hope, even if we're struggling at the moment.
Well, the thing about the Queen, of course, and the head of state generally, is whoever that may be, is they have to be completely non-political and say nothing which can be misinterpreted or cause any furore, and at the same time say something vaguely interesting, which is quite a challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, Norman, we're going to pause and head back to the studio to get a little update from the news. But just as we pass back to Rosie in the studio, I just want to show you the crowds here, because they really are gathering, expecting the first royals to leave through the gates of Buckingham Palace
Look at that.
at around 10 a.m. and then they're going to process or troop the colour down the Mall to Horse Guards Parade for that to start at 11 o'clock. As you can see, already 8:46 this morning. It's getting busy down here. We'll be back in just a moment, but first of all, here's Rosie with the rest of today's news headlines.
A very good morning. It's 8:47. Let's bring you up to date here on GB News. In the US, 5 people are dead after a shooting at a hospital in Tulsa. A gunman armed with a rifle and a handgun killed 4 people in Oklahoma before he was fatally shot himself. 19 children and 2 teachers were murdered at a primary school last week.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
Johnny Depp says he feels he's got his life back after winning his defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife Amber Heard. The actor wasn't in court to hear the verdict. He was spotted at a pub in Newcastle last night. The jury unanimously found that Amber Heard acted with malice in a 2018 article in which she claimed she was a victim of sexual violence. Johnny Depp was awarded £12 million in damages. Russia has taken control of the most strategically important city of Severodonetsk in eastern Ukraine. That's the latest update from British military intelligence. The Ministry of Defence says Ukrainian troops probably still retain control of the main road and river line into the area. But Russia's making steady local gains. The UK Home Secretary has told Conservative MPs pushing for the Prime Minister to resign to forget it. Speaking to the Daily Mail, Priti Patel said writing letters of no confidence in Boris Johnson was a sideshow and that the party should be focused on finding solutions for the real challenges people are facing. 28 Conservative MPs have now either said the Prime Minister should resign or have publicly called for a vote of confidence. Sheryl Sandberg, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook's parent company Meta, is leaving after 14 years. She announced her departure on Facebook, saying the role had been the honour and privilege of a lifetime and that she'll now be focusing on her foundation and philanthropic work. You're up to date on GB News. It is 8:49. We're on your TV, online and DAB plus radio. This is GB News.
Rosie, thank you. We just want to rattle through one more paper with the Royal Author and former Home Office Minister Norman Baker, who's still here. And I know we're going royal mad this morning, but quite rightly so. Can I have a look at the eye? Because, oh no, I'll tell you what, I was going to talk about the number of 19 million people hitting the roads to come, but I know actually you've just reminded me that you wanted to talk about this in the honours list. Call me the Prince of Wheels. This is in the Daily Mail.
It's a sort of punnish headline in the Daily Mail. A master wheelwright. It's a Queen's Birthday honours, of course, which this year are quite uncontroversial. And a master wheelwright who repairs the Queen's carriages has been appointed an MBE, and he uses traditional methods to make and fix wooden wheels. Well, there can't be many of those people in the country, can they?
No.
Make some wooden wheels. And he's had a royal warrant since 2005 and stores about 200 wheels a year. Who wants 200 wooden wheels?
Maybe the Queen.
Wow.
Maybe
Oh.
Did she get through a lot of wooden wheels?
I bet so.
I'll tell you who will is Lady Louise Windsor, who's a great carriage rider, following in the footsteps of her grandfather, Prince
Oh,
Philip.
right.
So,
and they've got
they
wooden
use
wheels.
wooden wheels.
Oh,
Yes,
right, okay.
I
There you
think.
are. Well, really.
Well,
Maybe I'm
congratulations, Steve. What's he
Spokes
called
would be
again?
wooden.
He's
I
called
don't-
Gregory Rowland. He's 52 from Honiton and Devon.
Honestly.
So if you're watching, Gregory, well done.
Yeah, congratulations to you. Well deserved, I'm sure. Norman, thank you. Don't go anywhere. You might want to chip in on this next
Right.
bit because we've been talking about all the pageantry. It is going to be an incredible weekend. But how on earth do you organise
Yes.
something like this? It's mind-blowing.
And if you've ever organised a wedding, and I know you've just
I've just done
literally
one.
had your wedding, it's a lot to organise. Well, this is on a scale that most of us can never really comprehend. Preparing for the pageant, which takes place on Sunday, we're pleased to welcome the Royal Pageant Master himself, Bruno Peake.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. Good morning. How are you feeling?
Well, first of all, I'm Pageant Master of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Beacon,
Oh, right, the whole thing, whole shebang.
which are being lit this evening. We've got over 3,500 of them being lit throughout the Commonwealth and the UK, overseas UK territories. We've got 4 going up on top of the 4 highest peaks, being taken by Walking with the Wounded, who are using it quite rightfully as a way of raising funds for their worthy cause. But the nice thing about this event is it brings the people and the families of the Commonwealth and the country together in one celebration of an extraordinary lady, our Queen.
Logistics is a hard thing at times, but logistics with this sort of pressure must be something else.
Well, I was asked to start in November 2020, so I've been working on it for nearly 19 months now. And this is my 3rd Jubilee as Pageant Master of the Queen's Platinum of the Queen's Beacons. So, you know, it's a way of updating the format that you can do these things these days. And with the coming of, you know, laptops and computers, it does make it easier, but it is still an enormous task.
So what has been your biggest headache with organising this sort of thing?
I think at the beginning it was people saying, look, we're just coming out of lockdown, is it going to happen? You know, all that sort of thing, which is quite understandable. But it's just, you know, it's just something I enjoy doing, so I don't think of the pressure anymore.
You don't think about the pressure, but you still feel it. I gather you're,
Oh, I
you're
do.
awake a lot at night. What
Yeah.
is it that's keeping
told
you
you that.
awake at night? Well, I think
We have our
Not
sources.
talk to my
we
wife.
did some research. And look, I get it. You know, there's a lot riding on you, and we know that the Queen is a stickler for detail and likes things
She
just
certainly
so.
is. She certainly is, and I'm going to be very proud meeting her at Windsor Castle tonight. And it'll be as I said, it'll be my 3rd Jubilee, and she's so gracious, and you know, there'll be a few tears shed tonight. I don't think just, you know, people will be having their parties over the weekend, but this is, you know, the first real big community international event of the Jubilee weekend. And I think a lot of people, once the Jubilee weekend is over, people are going to think, you know, this is something so special that only our nation can undertake.
Can I ask you about the Queen? In that, I mean, you've got a job. You say you enjoy the job, and it's a huge amount of work and all the rest of it. When you get to meet the Queen, you know, as it all kicks off tonight, is there a sense that you can actually sort of look her in the eye and say or feel, I have done this for you, Your Majesty?
Yeah, but I'm still nervous. Every time I meet her, I don't mind admitting. You know,
How
I'm
many
still
times
nervous.
have you met her?
Quite a few times. But I'm still very nervous. But she just has that way of looking at you. She's got a wonderful smile, which puts you at ease. It really does. And when you actually see the principal beacon alight, and you see the smile on her face, not because that one is alight, but it's because it symbolises all the others that have either been lit before or are being lit after. Because, you know, it's a great way of bringing people from all walks of life together in common celebration.
Today's, it's not tinged with sadness, that's the wrong word, and I can't quite work out the word I'm looking for, but there's a real acknowledgement that the Queen is 96. Yes, her mum lived to 101, but we probably won't have another Jubilee celebration with Her Majesty. And I suppose most people are just taking advantage of this opportunity to try and see the Queen in some capacity, to attend some of these pageants, to really
do you think to
enjoy
say thank
her.
you in a way?
I think the world wants to say thank you, because she's not just been head of the Commonwealth for 70 years, and you know, our Queen for 70 years, but she's been such an iconic individual, you know, who has always led from the front. And I can remember sitting at home watching, sorry, brings a lump to my throat, watching the funeral. And when I saw her sitting in Westminster Abbey on her own, you know, where I think people would have forgiven if she was surrounded by her family. But she's the sort of person, this is my opinion, okay, sort of person who understands what her subjects feel. And she led by the front.
Yeah.
She said, look, I'm sharing this with you. A bit like when during World War II, when the palace was bombed, they then felt that they had something in common with the rest of the people of London.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, this is my opinion, she's always led from the front. The best leader this nation has had for 70 years.
It is remarkable because, I mean, obviously the lifestyle of the royals is very different to us, and yet, she still feels like one of us, really. And I don't think I've ever met, well, I could probably count on one hand the number of people who wouldn't give their eye teeth to meet Her Majesty the Queen at some point. I mean, I would just, if only, what an honour.
But she's also got a lot of good people working around her, you know, and they're so nice too. You know, I've never had any problems at all. And I come from a very different background, you know, but I think all they want is people to come together, celebrate, bring the nation together, and have a party.
Yeah.
And nobody can do it like we can.
Absolutely, and you know what, to see tears in your eyes, I think first tears of the morning on the show, but I would wager that
they won't be the last
ones
they won't be
today.
the last.
I think it is going to be an emotional day, but happy tears. Happy tears, as my children say.
Yeah.
Bruno, we wish you luck with tonight.
Yes,
Send
fingers
our
crossed.
best wishes to Her Majesty, but we hope to get a sneak peek of her before you do today. We're keeping our eyes firmly trained on that flag behind us. It's still the Union flag flying. As soon as it is the standard, we're told a 36-footer, absolutely huge.
38-footer.
38-footer. Then we know Her Majesty is in Buckingham Palace
We'll be able to
behind
miss
us.
that one, let me tell
and we'll
you.
let you know just as soon as we see it. Look, do stay with us. It's 8:57. We're going to take a quick break. After that, when we come back, we'll be speaking to the Queen's former press secretary about what Her Majesty may be feeling on this historic day. See you in a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
we're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Her Majesty the Queen becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
A very good morning to you. It's just gone 9 o'clock on Thursday, the 2nd of June. You're watching and listening to Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Isabel live from Buckingham Palace. It doesn't get old saying that, does it?
It doesn't.
It bathed in sunlight behind us. We're having a fabulous morning. We're delighted to have your company.
Oh, we certainly are. And coming up for you today, millions of us right around the country and indeed around the world will today celebrate the Queen's 70 years of service as she becomes the first British monarch to ever celebrate a Platinum Jubilee.
A new portrait of Her Majesty has been released, and in a special message, the Queen said the day was an opportunity to reflect on all that's been achieved during the last 70 years.
Well, this historic occasion is being marked by Trooping the Colour, the Sovereign's personal inspection of British and Commonwealth troops, and it will culminate in an appearance on the Buckingham Palace balcony right behind us here of the Queen and working members of the royal family.
Well, today's festivities will, of course, kick off a bank holiday weekend of celebrations with around, we think, 200,000 local events and street parties taking place right across the country.
And also a pair of 11-year-old twins who raised £50,000 for NHS charities, as well as the actor Damien Lewis and the illustrator Quentin Blake, have been named in the Queen's Jubilee birthday honours list.
And remember, we'd love to hear from you throughout the programme as we've been reflecting all morning. Join in our discussions. Email us, gbnews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at GB News.
We were saying people watching from around the world, watching these celebrations from around the world. Ivan says he's watching from Bedford View in South Africa.
Oh, fantastic.
And Ivan saw the Queen in 1947 in Durban. And just to prove that you can catch us on YouTube when you're out on the move or on the GB News app, Alex says, I'm on a coach right now from Bristol to London. I decided that I will not miss this moment of history and therefore going to the Mall and staying the whole day in London. I hope you enjoy it, Alex. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, then you won't miss a thing.
Well, today the Queen will become the first British monarch to celebrate 70 years on the throne with a Platinum Jubilee.
Well, we are live, as you can probably tell, from Buckingham Palace all morning, bringing you everything you need to know about what is, I could say, a landmark day, but it's a historic day. Before we look forward, look ahead to what's happening over the next 4 days, let's look back a little bit with our royal reporter, Cameron Walker, who's been really looking at the Queen's historic reign.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
Her Majesty the Queen, speaking in 2015 when she overtook her great-great-grandmother Queen Victoria as Britain's longest reigning monarch. This year, we celebrate her Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. Trooping the Colour is a large part of June's celebrations and has marked the official birthday of the British sovereign for more than 2 centuries. 96 years ago, the then Princess Elizabeth was born, not in a palace, but in a townhouse. She wasn't expected to be queen, but her uncle, King Edward VIII's sudden abdication to marry an American divorcee propelled Elizabeth up the line of succession.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
Even on her birthday, Her Majesty continues with duties and works through her daily red box of government papers. 14 British Prime Ministers have served her, as well as 15 Australian and 12 Canadians. She has advised and guided each of them through troubled times, while always knowing when to lighten the mood.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
Last night, a specially commissioned Platinum Jubilee portrait was released to mark the beginning of the celebrations. The Queen hopes that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved during the last 70 years as we look to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. Cameron Walker, GB News.
OK, let's talk to Royal broadcaster and commentator Rafe Hadelman-Coo, who joins us once again. You've been our lifeline, Rafe, this morning, because there's not much you don't know about all of this sort of thing, is there? This is going to be 4 days to remember.
Yes. From parties to pageants and from concerts to parades, this is a blockbuster weekend with something for everybody, and what a splendid day to kick it all off. I'm tempted to say it's a happy and glorious day for happy and glorious rain. That might be a bit too cheesy, so I'll refrain from saying that. But yes, I think we're going to be in for a great spectacle today, because today actually is not just celebrating the Queen's 70-year reign, it's also celebrating her birthday. But it was on this day 70 years ago that behind you can see the balcony that the Queen first stood as Queen, and so it'll be a very poignant moment to actually see Her Majesty stand where she stood exactly 70 years ago, in the pouring rain, it must be said.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've all sung the national anthem many a times, Long to Reign Over Us, and that she has done, certainly. And look, we keep turning our heads away from the camera just to keep an eye on the flag. Tell us a little bit about what sort of signals the palace is giving us this morning about where the royal family are and when we're expecting to see the first glimpses, really, of some of the royals this morning.
That's right. So the royal families are still in their homes. It's still quite early in the morning, we have to say.
Well, you know, they're supposed to be coming out in about 55 minutes, the first one.
Yeah.
Not long to go.
Well, 10:30 we'll see the first royals leaving the palace, but the parade starts, the trooping starts around 10 a.m. they'll be leaving. But yes, once the Union flag is lowered, we'll know that the Queen has arrived, because her standard will be flying there. It'll be a much bigger standard. It'll be the ceremonial standard, which is, we're assuming, that the 38-foot one. And of course, then we'll have Her Majesty waiting by the balcony as the rest of the family proceeds to Trooping the Colour, representing her, the Prince of Wales, Duke of Cambridge, and Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. And after the salute, they will lead the troops back here again, so that the Queen, who hasn't missed a single trooping in her entire life, except for 1 year when there was a train strike, she'll be able to actually do a little salute to them as well from the balcony, which is a nice break with tradition.
Do you know what I'm desperate to say? What a trooper. Just desperate to say it after all these years, and she's only missed one.
But isn't that interesting? Because it's in some ways it's being written as the fact that she is missing it this year, but in her own way she isn't.
No. Well, you know, the monarchy evolves and changes, traditions change, and now we've got a new... she used to be on horseback, then she went into a carriage, and now she's on her balcony. It all seems pretty logical to me.
And Rafe, we've been reflecting all morning on this statement that Her Majesty has put out to reflect the Platinum Jubilee, and she's been talking about looking to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. And I think that, you know, picking up on what Stephen's saying, there's not really being the typical trooping, but a sign of the way, very subtly perhaps, the monarchy is being handed over gradually to her son, Prince Charles, who's increasingly picking up many of her duties.
That's right. This is just the next stage. We saw recently the Prince of Wales take on the role of delivering the Queen's speech at the state opening of Parliament, and Prince William was also in attendance there, beginning his apprenticeship for when his father succeeds. And this is all just part of the natural process. And it's only you know, understandable and fair that this is happening now. And of course, the Queen, I'm thinking, you know, is very proud to see her son and her grandson taking on these roles.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary because we've never seen it before, have we? We've never seen that sort of succession taking place. Rafe, it's been a joy. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you.
A pleasure. Enjoy the day.
We will do.
We will, absolutely.
Well, here's what's coming up as part of the celebrations today.
Yes, so much to tell everybody about. Later on this morning, the Queen's birthday parade will be travelling through the city. That's happening until about, well, 12:30, we think, when from 12:30 till 1, that fly past is expected, and a royal working family balcony gathering at Buckingham Palace just behind us will be happening there.
Yes. Now, tomorrow, it is the 3rd of June, there'll be a service of thanksgiving for the Queen's reign. That will be held at St Paul's Cathedral. Now, bell ringers across the UK, this is going to sound magnificent, they'll be taking part in activities right across the Jubilee weekend and also across the Commonwealth as well, we understand.
Then on Saturday, the 4th of June, members of the royal family are attending the Derby at Epsom, and there will, of course, also be the concert happening on Saturday evening.
Well, on Sunday, people across the country are going to be taking part in the big Jubilee lunch, and in the afternoon there's a Platinum Jubilee pageant taking place. I have to say, here at GB News, we're going to be up in Consell near Wolverhampton, where we're going to be having our Jubilee lunch from 6 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
dragging people out of their beds, but it's going to be quite a show, so I do hope you'll
There'll be a few hangovers, I reckon, by Sunday morning.
Oh, let's hope so. Let's hope so.
No, it'll be absolutely fantastic. And do let us know how you'll be celebrating whatever you're up to over the next 4 days. And perhaps you'll be at the Epsom Derby. I'll be there. Let me know if you'll be there. Or indeed having a street party, much like Stephen will on Sunday. Keep in touch all throughout. Now, we want to talk about, well, perhaps you could describe her as one of the most famous women in the world, certainly one of the most photographed women in the world. The Queen has that reputation for being notoriously private, nevertheless.
Indeed so. Well, our next guest is Dickie Arbiter, who you will know worked as Her Majesty's Press Secretary, and hopefully Dickie can give us a bit of an insight into what day-to-day life is like. It's good to see you. It's been a while since we've chatted. Really good to see you.
If I look at Isabel, I haven't got my glasses on. If I look at Isabel, you ask the question because I can't see.
Oh, yeah, no, don't you worry. Well, look, she is a very private lady. We know that. Do you think she will... do you think this is the sort of thing that really excites her, to understand how much she's loved in this country?
I think it does, and not only that, it's for the people as well. She's acknowledging the people for their support, and they come down here in their millions to support her. Although sort of looking around, I'm not sure too many people are going to get too close to the palace as they have in previous years.
No, it's a big staging area that's taking a lot of the room.
Obviously, in your experience as a former press secretary, you'll be aware how busy the current team behind Her Majesty will be over the next 4 days. Lots of talk in the papers about how the Sussexes are in town and whether or not there will be some surprises. I mean, this has been planned down to the nth degree. We know Harry and Meghan will be at Horse Guards Parade, but we think going to be out of the eyes of the camera. They've been very much briefed, haven't they, not to overshadow events. How much of a concern will there be that there could be a little bit of an upset over the next few days?
The palace will have wanted a reassurance from the Sussexes that they're not going to overshadow. They have a knack of overshadowing everything. This is about the Queen. It's not about anybody else. It's not about the other members of the royal family. This is the Queen's Day. It's her way of acknowledging her role for 70 years, and it's the public's way of acknowledging that role, and it's important that nobody else overshadows whatever is happening. It's her day, and hopefully we're going to see her twice on the balcony later today.
How much do you think it's a celebration? How much do you think it is a genuine thank you, a chance for us to say thank you to the Queen?
It's a bit of both, actually. It is a celebration. Look, we've seen previous jubilees, the silver, the gold, the diamond, and here we are, the platinum. Crowds have been coming since the beginning of the week to camp on sites. So it is an acknowledgement by the public. It's a love for the Queen because she's been with all of us. I mean, you've known nobody other than the Queen. I knew about King George VI. I was around for the coronation and saw the funeral procession. So it is an acknowledgement by the public. It's an opportunity for the Queen. When she's got the family with her at 1 o'clock, it's her way of saying thank you to them for their support over 70 years, and hopefully the public will acknowledge that too.
Dickie, I've been looking back over the archives and some footage of previous balcony appearances, and there's so many moments in history where the Queen's appeared there, but most recently there's one with Prince George, and Prince William was kneeling down to tend to her, and she elbowed him as if to say, look, the press are here, the flypast is on its way, and he leapt into position. And, you know, we've been reflecting this morning on how very much Her Majesty is still the boss at 96.
She is the boss, although she would have said when Prince Philip was alive that he's head of the family, she's head of state, head of nation, and head of the Commonwealth. But yes, she's taken very much the lead, and if anybody misbehaves up there, she tells them, you know, don't muck around. Look out, because we're being watched. What is interesting today, it is going to be the family who've supported her, and not the massive family, the extended family, where people sort of look up and scratch their heads and say, who are they? At least the people that are there today, we know who they'll be.
I'm always quite intrigued by Princess Anne. I know she's representing the Queen partially, along with Prince Charles, at the Trooping the Colour, and she's a very hard-working royalist, who actually in herself seems to stay out the limelight quite a lot.
She's incredibly hard-working. You know, there are those who criticise her when she goes to a children's home or does something with children. She's not tactile. She's not tactile. She's not of that generation that was brought up to be tactile, but she is very much on board with what is going on. She knows her briefs. When she's at Gatcombe at a weekend and she's travelling down to London, she'll work her way down the motorway before she gets here for lunch. So she is a hard worker. She knows exactly everything about her organisations and about the problems that they face. She knows about... You ask her any question, she'll answer it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's going to be great to see them all gathered on that balcony behind us.
It's going to be terrific.
And it's great to see you in the flesh, Dickie. We talk all the time, don't we? But it's lovely to have you here at Buckingham Palace with us. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Enjoy your Jubilee weekend.
We will, and
I think we will. I think we will.
You can enjoy it without having to work too much, Dickie.
Oh, I am working. I'm putting my glasses on again. Now I can see.
Business as usual.
She's prettier than you.
Only just, Dickie. Only just. Only just.
I'll take that.
Well, let's quickly move on, should we? Because still to come, we're going to be talking you through some of the people included in the Queen's Honours list, including our very own colleague, Dame Arlene Foster. We'll talk to her after this.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
we're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 18 minutes past 9. Good morning. We're at Buckingham Palace. It is the first day of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebration.
It is indeed. And it's that time in the show, about 20 past, where we start to delve into a bit of Jubilee gossip for you. And this morning, I have to say, who's just flown in from the States? No, it's not the Duchess of Sussex. It is Kinsey Schofield, who's also flown in from LA. And splendid does she look this morning.
This
Lovely
is just
to
for
see
you. It's so good to see you in real life.
It's
if anyone
lovely.
is watching at home, you are 10,000 times more beautiful. You too.
Oh, thank
but
you.
you are
I
so
don't know what's
beautiful.
happening. 2 compliments in 5 minutes. I just have to have a lie down.
Don't wind her up. What is it like? Okay, as someone who's you're based in LA, you do all the showbiz stuff, to fly into Britain for this event.
this is the Oscars, all of that stuff, this puts that to shame. There are so many exciting people on the streets, they've got their flags. I mean, Hollywood is nothing compared to the excitement happening right now.
Wow, that's nice
I love
to know.
Is there quite a bit of fever over there, Platinum Jubilee fever, or is it quite a British thing?
Yes, there is. There are several locations where you can go and celebrate the Jubilee with dancing and all sorts of, yummy food and cocktails. So we are celebrating it in the States as well.
Good to hear. Good stuff.
Let's talk about honours,
Yes.
should we? Because there's been some significant, Hollywood names as
Yeah.
well. We've had people like Damian Lewis who put in the birthday honours list.
So handsome, that Damien. Americans love him, and he's not just being honored for his acting career, but him and his wife, who unfortunately passed. They raised, I believe, almost $1 million for NHS workers to make sure they were fed during the pandemic. So I think that that's incredible. Stella McCartney, who's clearly a friend of the royal family, I feel like we see her with them often. And I don't know if you can relate to this, Isabel, but Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart was our camp anthem when I was young.
Oh, definitely, totally.
So I was so excited to see her name on the list as well.
It's funny how often, isn't it, the time lag between when you think someone should have gotten on it. Often it's quite a little bit later than you might expect, but it's such an amazing list of people. And over here, Claire Balding, a big broadcaster as well in the UK. And
what's she got?
She has got a CBE, as has Stella McCartney. The TV presenters John Trode and Greg Wallace from Celebrity MasterChef at MBEs. Sir Salman Rushdie and Quentin Blake, the illustrator, have been given Companions of Honour. And Ian Rankin, the author, I love an Ian Rankin book, being knighted. Fantastic. And that's when you get, the full work, isn't it?
That's the full work. I tell you what, someone else who you will know has got a damehood, and that is our very own Arlene Foster. A former First Minister of Northern Ireland, of course, we should point out, which is why she's got it rather than being a GB News presenter, I should imagine. Arlene, good morning and congratulations.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You've had to keep this secret for a little while, I'd imagine. Tell us about the moment you found out you were going to be a Dame.
Yeah, so I found out about 5.5 weeks ago, you receive a letter which comes on Her Majesty's service, and you open up the letter very quickly, as you can imagine, and there it is that you've been recommended for the honour that you've been put forward for. So, Isabel and Stephen, I'm thrilled because, as you all know, I'm a huge royalist, and to receive this honour in the Jubilee, the Platinum Jubilee year, is such a special thing, and it's really lovely. And obviously, it's for my service to my constituents and Fermanagh and South Tyrone, and for my time as the first female First Minister as well. So it's really lovely, and it's nice to be with you in GB News talking about it with colleagues today.
Yeah, I was going to say, the job of First Minister, as we know, is not an easy one. And everything that you had to work through there, and obviously there's still problems going on with the Assembly. It must be really lovely just to have some acknowledgement of all the work that you did.
Yeah, it is lovely, and I share it with so many others today, from BEM right up to Companions of Honour. It's an acknowledgement from Her Majesty the Queen, and if, like me, you believe that she has been exemplary in her service and her dedication to the nation and to the Commonwealth, then that makes it so much more special, and I'm really pleased to have received it during her Platinum Jubilee year. I've watched... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's the smile on your face, Dame Arlene, which is absolutely lovely to see.
Yeah, we're all sharing in it for you, and we'll follow the journey. We'll follow it, if you don't mind. All of the GB News family right behind you, and absolutely thrilled for you. Thank you so much.
Oh, do you fancy a damehood, Kinsey? You can have one.
Completely. It would already be on my license and passport.
Oh, absolutely, quite right too. Can we talk Harry and Meghan? They, like you, have flown in.
Yes, were you on the same flight?
I wish. They go private.
Okay.
But no, we left around the same time. They arrived yesterday, and they took off the night before. We've got Lily and Archie in the country. This is Lily's first time.
Yes.
She's going to meet her great-grandmother. How exciting is that? But no, I'm excited that they're here. No matter what is going on It's a family united, and that is so exciting to see.
Kinsey, I have to agree. And, you know, whether or not you're a fan of Meghan and Harry, and whether or not people are disappointed and hurt about them leaving the royal family, I think if we do get a glimpse of Lilibet and Archie, it melts people's hearts. I'm just convinced. I think there's a mood of forgiveness. I think there's a mood of positivity, and maybe, just maybe, you know, some relations could thaw within the royal family over the course. The magic of the Platinum Jubilee might just sort of heal some rifts.
Absolutely. And don't you think if you were Lily or Archie, you would be resentful that you didn't get to participate in something like this? So how great that they're a part of history now. That's incredible.
Absolutely fantastic.
There's a lot of focus on the balcony. Balcony right over there.
Helicopter, we should say.
There's been some balcony pictures, some interesting balcony pictures of Harry and Meghan.
Oh.
So I saw online yesterday.
I've seen those too. I don't know. Look, here's my issue with the balcony. No matter what, I think that their egos might be a little bruised if they're excluded from the balcony. Live television. What a thrill. There might be some, you know, an ego bruised if they're excluded from the balcony, but the reality is they are very protective, so I don't think that they'll miss being on the balcony later today.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see Prince William, and we're going to see Prince George and Prince Charles, and the Queen's theme is celebrating and looking forward to the future, and so that is really exciting to have the presence of those men on there.
Yeah,
Well, Kinsey, we've been thrilled to have you. Thank you for flying in, especially for this. Lovely to see you. Thanks for bringing us to date with the showbiz for the Platinum Jubilee. And I'm sad to say it's the end of our programme and our little stint here outside Buckingham Palace, but that's not it for the day.
No, Alistair Stewart is going to be here from 10 o'clock for the Trooping of the Colour.
Yes, don't miss a beat, because we're expecting those royals to come through that gate behind me, to march down the Mall into Horse Guards Parade from around 10:30. Then they'll be in Horse Guards Parade, we think, about 11 o'clock. And then Her Majesty is going to be giving not one but two appearances from the balcony here at Buckingham Palace, 12:20 and 1 o'clock, when she's joined by her family. But from me and Stephen,
That is it
enjoy your
for now.
weekend. Have a
I'll
fabulous
see you
time.
tomorrow. But up next, a special programme with Tom Harwood.
Good morning, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. The Jubilee weekend is upon us, and certainly for most of us, the start of it is looking pretty good. It's going to be a fine day out there, plenty of sunshine. Bit chilly first thing, but warming up by this afternoon. There is one exception. This little weather front is just drifting its way towards Northern Ireland. So here we are going to see increasing amounts of cloud, and we will also see some outbreaks of rain working in from the west. There is also the possibility of cloud bubbling up and providing one or two scattered showers over Scotland and Northern England through the day today, but they'll be very well scattered. Most places won't see the showers, just stay dry and fine with sunny spells. It is pretty fresh out there if you're just about to step out, but by this afternoon it'll feel pretty warm. The winds are light, the sun is strong, and temperatures in the south getting over 20 Celsius. Cooler across the far northeast, and a bit cooler with the cloud increasing for Northern Ireland. The rain may not get to Belfast till later on, but it will move in here. Quite a wet evening it looks like for Northern Ireland, and it doesn't stop there. The rain will move its way across the Irish Sea towards southwest Scotland, northwest England, North Wales overnight. Otherwise, though, most of us having a fine, dry evening and staying dry and clear overnight. Again, temperatures could drop down to single figures where we keep the clear skies, so a chilly start to Friday. Friday, tomorrow is not quite as straightforward as today. It does look as if it'll be cloudier for Wales, western parts of England, southwest Scotland, with maybe one or two showers, and still for Northern Ireland too. Any showers across central and eastern parts, few and far between. So again, most places across eastern England and much of northern and central Scotland, dry and fine with some sunshine. And in the sunny spells, temperatures again getting into the low 20s, feeling pretty pleasant. Some of these North Sea coast a little fresher on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, well, still some sunshine certainly across the north, but in the south likely to turn cloudier with an increasing chance of some showers.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fact